All right, welcome to the Sae Bae Cast number 30 with Westham. Westham, I'm very excited for this one. You're our second, I guess, PK slash PvP guest who's very knowledgeable on the topic. So very excited to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's my pleasure to be here. I was actually, what's it called? I was watching your ones with Lopsy and whatnot, and I figured it'd be kind of cool to be here as well. And then you came up with the offer, so I thought it was perfect timing.
I saw you in the chat, and so whenever I see like a person in my Twitch chat that's listening to the casts, I'm like, okay, there's got to be some little bit of interest if they're even here in the first place to a pre-recorded podcast, you know. So I'm honored that we could get you on it. So okay,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
like I said, it's my pleasure. Trust me.
awesome, awesome. I'm looking forward to a lot of like good conversations because honestly, with PvP, I'm pretty set with my current like mindset with how I want the game to be for like skilling PVM and Iron Man because I just focus on it all the time.
hmm
But with PvP, honestly, I really don't feel like I know anything because I mean, I have my own ideas, but those ideas are not cemented at all. I just have the little ideas of what I think would be good, at least for balancing the PvMers, you know, out there, like keeping it balanced for them, but as well as I don't know, just making it fair overall. So who knows if that's the way to go, but we'll get into
Yeah, I
it.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think PvP is a very, it's a very complicated like topic because there's so many different forms of it as well. For example, like I specialize for the most part in just hybriding, tribriding, competitive deep world DPKing is what I used to do, and also like competitive tribriding.
Okay.
And I don't know, I don't think that's like what majority of the player base would view as PKing. I mean, obviously they view it as PKing, but like that's not the type of PKing that they would be getting into.
Yeah.
I think LMS definitely opened like a starter interest for tribriding, but I mean before that, I think majority of the people that viewed PKing, they were like the main interest I think lied in like Edgeville and like GE PvP PKing,
Yep.
where you're mainly using like Venge and just melee or range.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. Like, at least for me, LMS completely taught me how to PvP, just to try Brid, to do anything, honestly. Because I still recall the first LMS game I played. Oh my god, I had no idea what I was doing.
Did you try the old school element, like the first version of
No,
LMS?
it's where you start out with 10 prayer points and it's basically like a prayer flicking
Yeah,
contest.
I'm not gonna lie. I kind of miss those. Obviously, I think the new LMS is absolutely sick, and
Yeah.
it's like it's an improvement. But the way the old LMS worked was like you never really knew what you were gonna go against in the finals.
Yeah.
I mean, people had like maple short bows with like a whip and a rune plate body, right? So yeah, I feel like you had to manage your inventory and like what you were gonna pick and choose because you couldn't always
Yeah.
get mage.
Yeah.
You had to be pretty stacked if you wanted mage.
I do remember I watched a bunch of Spark Mac back then when he would do them. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah, Tibby's the boy.
yeah. I just remember thinking there is no way I could do this because not only do you already have to know how to PvP, but you have to know how to prayer flick as well. And so like I knew how to save prayer points. I knew how to like get those one ticks off, but like God, the entire time when you're based off 10 prayer points, like smiting as well, like doing protections and smiting and stuff like that, I was like, fuck this.
Yeah, I didn't really know how to prayer flick back then either. I kind of just went off of like lazy flicking,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
thankfully, like being good at like tribriding and PKing, I guess, got me some wins. But I remember Bodhi used to beat me all the time, uh, just because like he was able to keep his prayer points there forever, whilst I would eventually run out if I didn't kill him quick enough.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a completely different time. I started LMS right after, so right when they completely reworked it, and I don't think there was rewards yet, but yeah, I just remember being so shit at it, and then over the coming weeks, I got extremely addicted. So I have like firsthand knowledge that PKing can be extremely addicting because every fight's different, you know, and like
Yeah,
you are constantly improving and stuff.
it's a nice switch from PVM. I don't mind PVM. Like, I've competed in a decent amount. Well, I said decent amount. I competed in like three, like PVM bingos, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it, honestly. It's just I don't think I'd enjoy it outside of a competitive aspect unless I was playing an Iron Man.
Mm. So unless you were doing an Iron Man, so if you're playing an Iron Man, does it
Hmm.
matter?
I mean, I think with an Iron, it's different because, like, obviously, then you have to go do certain things if you want to get the unlocks. But, like, for me, the way I view the game for so long is like, yeah, I can go PVM and maybe want an item. Like, I've done a decent amount of Nightmare, but ultimately, with the skill level that I'm at in PvP, nothing really comes close to the money making that PvP earns me.
Mm.
So I've always had in my mind that like, oh well, why should I go do like Vorkath when I can just go PK for more money?
Where did I hear that from? Somebody said Pking is the. It'll always. Oh, I think it was from you. Maybe
Yeah.
it said Pking is will always be the best form of money making, but it will only be it for like the top 0.1% of PKers.
Yeah, so I think the money that I make from PKing, I don't think you could make from PVM. Obviously, there are like if you get lucky PVMing and
Yeah,
get like back-to-back T-bows and whatnot, you're obviously
but on
queuing up.
average,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like on average, I make way more than what I ever could from PVM, I think.
yeah.
And if you if you're a higher risker, like Oda Block, for example, no one can come close to what he made. You can't really compare the two even.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. So, because I've never seen, honestly, I never really see PKing as money making because I've just never been on the scene. Like, I just see it as people like to fight each other and whatever like spoils they get is awesome, but like that's not the reason they're doing it. I mean, I assume that's probably not the main reason they're doing it anyway. It's probably just a bunch of fun and there's always risk
Yeah,
involved.
I definitely do PKing for money in like a slight aspect of it. But I mean, if I wanted to really grind out money making, I think I do PvP very differently to how I do it now.
Yeah.
I think for the most part now, I basically PK to get clips, to get like the highest hits or like the
Mm,
nicest combos and stuff like that, more than what I actually care about the loot.
yeah. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so let's get into I guess you as a player. So when did you start old school? Or I guess I always say old school, but when did you start playing RuneScape as a kid? And then I guess just your journey to where you are now.
So I think my parents bought me and my brother a computer that we were gonna share in 2006. So when I was 6 years old, and I didn't find about RuneScape until a year later when my brother first introduced me to it. I can't remember where we played it. I think it was off of some website similar to like Miniclip, I believe. Uh, but that's where like I originally found RuneScape, and I used to play it with my brother and two IRL friends that I had. And the way we used to do it was we would have 2 hours at the computer each. Obviously, him being the bigger brother would kind of he would take the advantage and like kick me off after I've been playing an hour because like you don't really have much choice as the little brother.
Yep.
So whenever I would run out of time, me and my mate would usually like queue it up together so that we were playing at the same time. Because I think he had an hour of playtime
Okay.
at his house. So when we ran out, we would go to the library to play. Because if you had a library card, you could get like an extra hour and a half at the computers there, I think.
Yeah.
So that was like how I originally got into RuneScape, and I think I had an interest for PKing very early on. Even in like 2008 was my first introduction to PKing because that's when I think me, my bro, and my one of my ARL friends went PKing at the Hollow Tree, which is an ancient spot at this point. No one really even knows what it is, but there's a Hollow Tree directly north of the Grand Exchange, like in Varrock Multi, that used to be quite active, but obviously isn't active anymore. But that used to be a quite like a PK and hotspot back in the day. I don't know. We were just noobs having fun. Like my accounts were never really that good. I think I didn't actually get good at the game up until like 2013, I think.
Just brings back so many memories of being a kid and like doing anything to get some extra computer time.
Yeah, it's so different in it, like compared to now, where you can just sit there, play as much as you want, and like
Yeah.
I think if I were to, I couldn't ever guess that like I would have the amount of accounts I have today, or anything like that when I was younger. I reckon because when I was younger, I was truly a noob. I would just train my stats for the most part with like the shared XP option on and just get everything at like the same time.
Yeah.
I think my first ever PK account I built was like in 2010. That was when I built a Polypore Gmorpure, which sounds complicated, but is literally just 80 mage and 50 attack, and then whatever strength level you want to have.
Wow. Did you have any prayer? What's
I
the
think I did. I'm not entirely sure. I'm definitely, yeah, I definitely must have had at least 25 because protect item.
yeah.
Polyport wasn't expensive by any means, but like Unskull Peking, I don't think I was really aware of that at the time.
So what so wait, how many accounts do you think you have now? Or do you have an exact number?
15.
50 or 15?
15, not 50.
Okay, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think 50 would be a bit excessive, but
I'm like,
15 is what I
damn.
currently
All
have.
right, 15 again. That's still a shit ton. I just needed to
Yeah, I
make
think I've
sure.
had an addiction since I started playing old school RuneScape that like I know how like I remember like, so like most players will have like a goal of like I want to get a max cape for example. I
Yeah.
think mine has always been I want every single account build that I could ever want, and then if I ever want to use it, I already have it. So
I
I've spent a good amount every 2 weeks. I think I blow at least like 50 mil on bonds.
damn. But you make 50 mil in like one good PK. That's like
Yeah, I mean PKing is definitely RNG, but like it's still consistent to some level.
yeah,
I think the most consistent money you can make on this game is like harmonized PKing. It's so easy.
damn. Yeah. I'd find it interesting because I mean, people play in different ways. I had a IRL friend that he wasn't even a PKer, and he had an obsession with making accounts different builds. Even though he wouldn't PK, he would just like his one defense, and then you would have like a 99 prayer, no other stats. And then you'd have like all these other accounts. I'm like, I can't play that way because what I feel like is like I'm spreading myself thin. But as a PKer, I can completely understand wanting to play on a different build and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's just especially with how PvP is now, where like you have like you can attack 15 attack combats higher or lower. Uh, any type of account like is relevant depending on like what bracket you're in.
Mm,
So I don't know. I have a lot of accounts that are like the same combat but with different styles. So like I have like a baby tank, which is the same combat, well, close to at least as my 60 attack med, but they're utilized for like two completely different things.
okay. And you saying so earlier you were saying that a harmonized use is it using the harm is the most consistent money?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't actually know if PVMers know how overpowered a harmonized really is in PKing, but I'm sure you've heard of stuff like PID swaps, right?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah, so
pretty familiar with how
yeah, so
PK
when most
works.
people refer to PID swaps, it's like getting, let's say, a AGS and a GMAL in the same tick to the point where your opponent can't even react to it. Like it just appears at the same time, and you can be dead from that. The way you can stack with a Harmonized and Fire Surge, you can stack a Fire Surge and an AGS as long as you have a Harm in one singular tick every time without fail, as long as you can recognize if you have PID or not. Because if you don't have PID, you have to be a bit further away. And if you have PID, you can stand a bit closer, for example.
Mm,
But nearly every time you can get it in just one singular tick. So a lot of people, you can just rush them or I guess fight them, making them think that they can kill you, which it's very hard to anti-rush a harm stack since you'll always venge the fire surge over the AGS.
Oh, interesting. So even if they land on the same take, it's just because that one was cast first, I guess.
Yeah, I think I don't know completely how it works, but that's from my experience.
Okay.
From what I've noticed anyway, I've never gotten venged off of the AGS, which is interesting because I felt like it just would have been randomized, but it's not.
Okay. It must be just because the projectile has already been coming at you. I
Yeah.
guess. I don't know. That's probably it though.
But yeah, so that is by far my favorite type of PKing. It's just very quick, easy. It's fast paced. All you do is just rush people over and over again, really.
Yeah, that's I completely understand how good the harm staff is. Even in PVM, it's really great. The only issue is that they've come out with a spell book that can just give you free DPS whenever you want. And so
Yeah, I remember. Did you see the tweet from Mod Arcane about that? I think.
yeah, we were in the same thread. We were just talking
Oh
about it.
yeah, yeah,
Yep. Talking
yeah.
he was talking about, for those that don't know, so I brought up the idea that the harm staff is going to plummet in price. Now, again, PKers will always still use it. It's a really good weapon. But it'll somewhat plummet because the Archaea spellbook came out, which is giving you death charge, giving you thralls at all times, shit like that, which devalues the amount of DPS the harm can produce. And so Arcane's first idea was that it could become like a charge staff, almost like you can always be on the standard spellbook if you have a harm staff, but you could also use a different spellbook. And then Westham brought up the point how fucking busted that would be in PvP, using Venge as well.
I think it would completely break it, honestly. Obviously, it's a very expensive item, so it's not like everyone could use it anyway. But for those that would have it, I mean, I think it would just be too overpowered to be fit into the current PvP meta.
Yeah. I think, okay, so I don't know if you care enough, if you even thought about it, but do you know, or do you have an idea of what could help? Because honestly, at this point, nothing's happened and the harm's still fine. I still used it at Fasani's. It's enjoyable because you don't need to focus on these like minute cooldowns and stuff like that. But at the same time, it is devalued because you have to be on the standard spellbook. I'm curious if you have any ideas, if you thought any further on that, what they could do, at least PVM related to the harm staff, that wouldn't break PvP.
So the thing is, I feel like PVMers are very good at calculating DPS very early on. Like, so as soon, even before something has made it into the game, there's usually someone that has already ran the DPS calculations based off like post stats and what mechanics they would have. I think Harmonized would be fine if it could autocast all spells, even Ancients. Which
Even
I
Ancients?
don't really... Yeah, I think it would be fine in that setting. Harmonized, I know a lot of people think like Harmonized would break in PvP if you could autocast Ancients, but I think as long as they keep the fact that you have to like autocast it rather than manually cast it, I think it's completely fine.
Oh, yeah, that is true, but they'd have to do that. Okay. That is...
What?
I'm honestly...
I'm not sure if it would be broken to Blood Barrage in PVM
it
at
would
that
be...
fast speed.
It would completely break Slayer metas.
Oh, actually, yeah, that's very true.
Like, it would
I didn't think about that.
It would... So the only way it could work is if they had an arbitrary restriction.
Yeah,
saying
like the chambers...
it would
call the catacomb, sorry.
Yeah, and you would just literally be speeding everything up by like 25%. Just disgusting. Or 20. Is it 20 or 25? I can't do the math in my head right now.
But yeah, Fire Surge is 5 tick and it makes it 40,
Yeah.
so it would be 20%, I think.
Okay,
yeah.
That's 20%. Crazy thing is yeah, that would completely break everything, and that would just make it so every like Iron Man, anybody that's going for 200 mil Slayer has to get a harm. But on the cool side, the harm would be billions, like literally billions. It would be so fucking disgusting, and it wouldn't break
I think
PvP.
OSRS
like
needs something like that though. It needs an item that is just like exceedingly expensive.
Yeah, and I honestly think that would be really cool. And I say that because I actually fucking have. I've had two of them, so like it doesn't even matter. So of course it sounds like an agenda, but okay, that might be shaking things up a bit too much because Slayer's already been extremely devalued. So those that are already pissed at me for even advocating this, because there's a lot of people that are very sensitive toward the topic of devaluation and stuff. The cool thing about the harm is, yes, it would break. So I think in an Iron Man, a skilling Iron Man, let's just say there's somebody going for 200 mil Slayer. Would it be worth the time investment to go camp Nightmare to get that? Because that's the other thing. You have to consider how many hours you're wasting to save hours. So
Yeah, I don't know what Lake ran the calculation for like how many hours you would have been spending at Nightmare if you wanted all the drops, and it was a ridiculous amount.
yep.
I can't remember the exact number, but it was a ridiculous amount.
And I honestly think that would actually be fair. Would it be really, really unfair for those that spoon it? Yeah, but that's the same thing with like somebody spooning a Tebow. If somebody gets a 20 KC Tebow and then somebody gets like a 4,000 KC Tebow, it just sucks to be them, you know?
Yeah, I mean, in general though, with OSRS, I feel like we are very held back by. I mean, I know Reddit makes this argument a lot, and it's one of the things that I actually agree with Reddit on. A lot of the updates in this game are held back by people that have restricted themselves, like by choice, and they just don't want whatever XP they have devalued.
Yep.
And I think in general that is harmful towards the direction of the game.
There's a point to it. There's definitely like a line where you can cross it where it actually is busted, but I do agree with you. There is a lot of things that are held back. We don't have like there's just certain items that we almost feel like can't ever come out in the game because of just the community's thoughts on it currently, which yeah, I understand.
I think even like stuff like a new skill, for example, is so heavily stigmatized because of people that just are going for like 200 mil all or care about their total and whatnot, and they don't want to lose their rank. So they'll try their very hardest to. I wouldn't say like propaganda their way into people voting no, but like they'll definitely try persuade the public as much as they possibly can.
Yeah. And to be fair, like I'm not a PKer, and so I see things. So I try to look at things both ways. If there was all of a sudden something that, I mean, I'm trying to think of it in the same way. So like I just imagine because I'm really heavily into clue scrolls. I love them,
Hmm.
and I also kind of compete with them. So like over time, I want to be rank one with a bunch of them. But if they randomly 4 years down the road came out with something that was like 3 times as fast to get clue scrolls, I'd be pretty pissed. Because it's like, come on, like you couldn't have introduced this 3 years ago when I started. Like, really?
Yeah, I mean that's always the case, right? A lot of people will feel like their own stuff got devalued because of updates, but that's kind of that's how it is with anything in a game, I
Yeah.
feel like. I mean,
No.
if you compare old school's release to how it is now, obviously the
Yeah.
experience gains that people are getting are significantly higher now than what it was in old school's release.
Oh yeah, insanely
And
higher.
yeah, the game's always gonna go in that direction to where like stuff is getting faster.
Yep. What
Because
needs?
I mean, at some point we will have to do the same thing that RS3 has did, which is make actual 120 skills.
Yeah, probably. Um, what they need to do is just not make things so extreme. So like they can always have little buffs to things. That's fine. That's
Hmm.
inevitable. But when something comes out and it's just like twice as good all of a sudden, it's probably not healthy. You should have like slowly done it.
Yeah, I
So
think that's what a lot of people think the wilderness should be. I know Twitter is a massive echo chamber. I've noticed that a lot over the years.
yep.
So like I'm sure that the Wody update, which I'm sure we'll get to as well, like the Wody blog and the changes that got proposed now is probably liked by the like majority of the player base. But if I look at my Twitter, it looks like the majority hates it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's just
No, it is.
it's not accurate whatsoever. But we're all in like our little echo
Yep.
chambers where we follow people that think the same way as us. And when it comes to like worldy updates as well, they're so controversial every single time. I think PVMers have it very easy. I know I might be kind of generalizing here, but I think PVMers have it very easy to like what they can agree on. Because
Yeah.
most of the
Yeah.
time, the only changes they make to PVM for the most part is just releasing a new boss or releasing like a harder version of what they got currently.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's hard to say no to that. Why would you say no to that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's tough. So I was briefly listening. I don't know if you ever listened to the like Rice Cup, Rakesy, and Mint Mad Cow podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So they had so
Yeah, I've listened to some of those before.
yeah.
I think I listened to the one they did with Bonesaw.
Okay, I didn't
That
listen to
was the
that
one
one.
that really got my interest.
I listened to the one with Solo Mission they had on just like last week, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about the wilderness blog and stuff like that. And also you were watching Bodhi's ramble on PvP and how he really wants it so that there's no uniques really being given out in the wilderness. So PVMers can't feel forced to go out there because there's nothing actually different about it, but it will be the best money maker, which is what he thinks will be the best idea to revive the
Yeah,
wilderness.
I think that's a quite popular opinion as well.
Yeah. So, okay, there's a bunch of different questions I'm gonna have, and I've reviewed the wilderness blog recently, and I'm just thinking, like, in your opinion, I guess, like, just to simplify it, we'll get into it definitely into more detail, but like to oversimplify it, what do you think would be the best kind of overarching thing for the wilderness, the theme for the wilderness, I guess, to revive it, I guess?
See, the thing is, I don't really know. I feel like my opinion on this has kind of shifted throughout the years. I used to agree with Bodhi. I think the solution that Bodhi has is the simplest one and the one that has been tried before and has worked before. Um, but that's exactly that. It's the fact that it's the only thing that has been that's ever been tried before. So I'm not completely against Jagex's decision. I don't think single plus is going to be the thing that revives the wilderness at all. But I also have the feeling that like just because the food chain that people refer to, which is like having OP moneymakers, uh, will create a food chain in the wilderness, which is true, it would. Uh, that is a solution, sure. Whether that would work long term or not, I don't really know.
What scares me about making the wilderness the best and just the best moneymaker
Hmm.
is and this is just a natural side effect of it, is eventually clans lock down stuff and make fuck tons of gold, because what Jagex plans it is like, okay, we'll make the wilderness 5 mil an hour on average for like a person that's in pretty good gear with max
Yeah, and that,
stats.
that was the case with Revenant, right?
Yeah, and then it ends up being like 15 mil an hour for those that can just have complete lockdown, complete safety, never have to bank, and it becomes somewhat skewed. Now I do, and it's not to say like, oh, that's unfair because they get to do that, because I mean anybody could just go in there and try to stop them. You know, nothing's stopping anybody from stopping them doing that. But it really does. I don't know. It becomes what are your thoughts on like abuse like that, where like Revs came out and people were locking down worlds, Iron Men were paying the mob to do that? Like, I'll share my opinions on it, but I want to hear yours first, I guess.
So the way that worked was, I think initially Rot locked down the 2.2k worlds. That
Yep.
was like the initial lockdown. They completely locked down the 2.2k worlds and like had them for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they began marketing the 2k worlds as for sale. So not only did they have the 2.2k, but they also completely locked down the 2k total worlds as well, and started selling off the 2K worlds to people that wanted to buy it. I think majority of it was Iron Man, if I remember
Yep.
correctly. That was the kind of people that they would appeal to. They would make a lot of money from that. I had a couple friends that was actually paid to be the protectors, and I think they would earn something like 175 mil a week for essentially standing still
Yep.
and just waiting for something to happen, which is absolutely insane. I mean,
And on top of that, because at least I was there in the beginning. I don't know how it progressed for the next 2 years, but they would also just kill their occasional revs. So on top of just standing there, they just like, I'll just kill a few revs as well, get lucky. So,
yeah, I mean, if there was revs free, they would just
yeah,
kill
they
them,
would.
right? Because I believe the way they did it was like depending on who came first, and like if you wanted to pay for like an extra rev, then you could do that. But if there was revs free, you could just kill them if you like.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's a bit of a tough one. I feel like obviously there are teams that could. There are other multi teams that could compete with Rot and just try to take it down, and they did. They did. Rot had a couple problems, I believe, with like locking it down for a short period of time, but ultimately I think the way it ended up being was that clans would basically ask Rot like, can we protect the 1750s in exchange for like you helping us if we get hit in our worlds, and we'll help you. And like the circle kind of grows from that to the point where I think even the 1250 total worlds became locked down. And eventually it was this big, massive, like, money circle of just clans protecting total worlds and, like, selling them off.
Yeah.
I mean, it became a bit of a joke at the end.
It's somewhat beautiful, though, because it's all community driven. Like,
yeah, exactly.
it's like these just people, if there's, I don't know.
Mean, it's the
there's a
same
will,
shit as
there's a way.
IRL, right? I mean,
Yep.
it's someone seeing an opportunity to make money and they're taking it.
Yep.
I can't really blame them for what they did whatsoever. If anything, I think the other teams. I mean, if there is a team that is superior to the other ones, I'm not trying to like, I don't know, big up Rot here, but they are a very big multi team, and they've proven themselves to be a quite good multi team at that. So I'm not surprised that they were able to do that. But ultimately, as well, if they just end up agreeing with all other clans to like leave each other alone in it and just sit there and make money off of this thing, then I don't know. I can't say I blame them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess I'll just share my brief opinion. So I was in Revs for like 3 months straight. It's basically the week of Wildy weapon release, and for 3 months straight, I was off. My classes had just ended, and so literally for 3 months, besides like the last month and a half when I was working part time, it was me sitting, laying in my bed on my laptop, camping Revs nonstop, and it was draining to say the least. It was a mental. You had to have a lot of mental strength to be able to stay there, because you're getting flamed the fuck out. So if you're like an Iron Man, you're not used to being out in the wilderness where it's like people come and just be the most toxic they could ever possibly be to you, and then like rag you almost, just make you feel like you never want to go out in the wilderness again. And then you're dealing with that shit, and then you're also dealing with like, okay, like the only way to prevent this is to pay them off, basically, like,
Yeah.
shit like that. So I dealt with it for 3 months, and but I will say, like, when you're just looking at it, like when you just kind of take a step back and see the overall thing, it is somewhat beautiful that that it's all community driven. It's the same thing I see with like relating it to skilling, people running essence to you. It's like there's nothing in the game that says that's wrong. You're getting way more XP than you normally would, but it's like you're using players instead of like these in-game services. You're I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
You're like
it's providing
yeah.
a service which happens all around the game.
Yeah.
I think the broken part was just that it was in the wilderness, and I think that's where like the flawed part came in, because it was meant to be like a dangerous area, not necessarily one where you go and pay someone and then you're completely like risk free, pretty much.
What do you think could solve that? So if that is an issue, I don't know. And again, like you're very, uh, I I said this on one of my rambles. I like how you talk about PvP because you don't use your emotions to talk about it. You just, if you don't know whether something is good, you just say that, and then I don't know. You're not emotional when you're talking about
Like that, it's like I don't have a solution for that, unfortunately. I mean, I feel like that's with any type of update they release to the wilderness, that's always a danger of happening. If you look at Callisto currently, There's Callisto protection CCs as well, but they just aren't really recognized that much because, well, Callisto doesn't generate that much activity. It doesn't generate that much GP. So
Yep.
the odds of that getting recognized by Jagex is not very high. I think the only reason Revs got so much attention was because of how much like money Revs actually put out into the game. Which, I mean, I must say, I think Revs, the way they made them was a mistake from the very beginning. Revenants, the way I remember them from back in the day, or like pre-EOC, was Revenants was a bit of a hit or miss. It wasn't really consistent money. You wouldn't get anything. You would get like a couple, like 300, 400 GP off of a Rev, and that was like your loot. And then you had that chance of either getting a corrupted dragon item or the corrupted PvP armors or the regular PvP armors. And that was Revenants. And then if you compare that to old school, where it was basically consistent money, and that's everything in old school nowadays.
Yep.
It's consistent money everywhere. I think that was the initial mistake. I don't think Revs would have had that problem if they could just find a way to actually introduce items that were good but only usable in PvP.
Yeah.
And that's also where I think majority of the polls fail, because all these items are always polled as like I understand that Ironman or like regular players don't want to feel forced to go into PvP, which is completely fair. That's also why I think the Wilderness should only offer stuff that is good in PvP. It shouldn't offer stuff that is good for skilling or good for PvM. It should only offer stuff that actually benefits the people that go to that area in the first place.
Yeah. So is like crossbow and stuff? That's not what you're talking about. You're talking about because that would kind of relate to PvM sort of.
Yeah, but I mean, crossbow also crossbow kind of suffered the same fate as like blowpipe from Zulrah did. Like if you look at crossbow and like the wieldy weapons right now, they're not expensive whatsoever, just because Revenants already like generate so much GP anyway that they got farmed to a point where the drops also became so much more common.
It bothers me so much. I am always so pissed off that Jagex said Jagex initially on release of Revs were dropping like 100 noted dragon skirts, and then they changed it to these totems or these ancient things. And then they said, as soon as we come out with a unique, we'll get rid of the money drops, like those huge relic drops and stuff like that. We'll get rid of it and we'll replace it with these new wieldy weapons. But instead, they fucking kept everything on there, which honestly was the biggest contributing factor to how devalued or I guess the plummet of price.
Yeah, if you look at crossbow on release, there was like 400 mil.
Yeah, and that's what's still in my mind because I'm an Iron Man. That's like still what I see it as.
Yeah, it maintained a very good price for a long time. Another thing that really skewed Revs was the fact that people didn't know that if you were Skulled, you would receive better loot and a way better drop chance at the wieldy weapons. And then obviously the whole Jed scandal happened, and all of that information ended up getting out. And now we're kind of at a point where like the meta has already been solved. And because so many wieldy weapons are already in the game, they're never really going to rise to a price that they actually deserve to be, because they are very overpowered.
Yep.
Like training for almost any account that isn't a main, training with the wieldy weapons is the best XP.
Oh, yeah, it has to be. Just against some squishy monster out in the wilderness.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm doing right now, currently. I'm killing Elder Chaos Druids with a Vigorous Chain Mace on my 60 attack Zerk, because it's almost twice the XP that you would get in, like, Nightmare Zone with Skimmy, for example. I don't know, overall, the wieldy weapons are really good, but they're not at the price they deserve to be. And it's a similar situation with, like, the Blowpipe, where the Blowpipe was, like, the best weapon in the entire game, but because Zulrah got farmed so much, because it just dropped money every single time, he just gave you like a guaranteed 200k drop, so many of them were coming into the game, so there was not really any point of them having that value.
Yep. And I've been saying this for years. I agree with Bodhi when he said Zulrah could literally just drop scales and uniques. That's it. Scales, uniques,
and that would be perfectly fine.
And that really works for Zulrah because you're getting best in slot items. It couldn't work for every other place necessarily. Like it'd be like a case by case scenario, because it's the same thing with Hydra. Like Hydra drops a lance. Nothing else. Like you don't need to be dropping other shit as well with okay, Hydra is just a really shitty boss fight, so we can all agree to that. Like that's just not fun. But at the same time, when you're dropping best in slot melee gloves, best in slot dragon killing lance, like you do not need to be dropping anything else other than that. The price will be super, super high, and people will camp it still because it's dropping best in slot. Now, Vorkath, for example, is just dropping like a shield, like a shitty shield and a shitty necklace. That needs to...
I mean, the interesting part is you say shitty shield, and I think that's from the aspect of like, it's not useful in PvM, right? But for PvP, it's great.
Oh, true.
For PvP, the Dragonfire board is essentially a Twisted Buckler, but a more tanky version.
And it has that Dragonfire
couple...
protection.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, what about the Wyvern Visage? Is that used at all? I know it has incredibly high melee defense.
The Wyvern is basically a hybrid's favorite shield.
Okay.
Because in hybrid fights, you're only doing melee and magic.
Oh, yeah, that would be perfect. You know
exactly. So it's like the best case scenario where an item like that really fits into the hybrid meta.
What's really funny about that shield is there's a literal metal dragon face on the shield, and it has 0 range defense. Like, it's literally metal, dude.
I mean, yeah, that's his RuneScape logic in general. I swear to God. Like, some of the stuff just looks like so good and tanky, but then you look at the stats and you're just like, huh?
You're like, how is this melee? How does this even have melee defense if it doesn't have range defense? It makes 0 sense. Like,
I think that's the trade-off that they make a lot of the time. So if you look at the Dragonfire board, I believe it doesn't have that great melee defenses either.
Yeah. And I understand the combat triangle, but just at like a realistic point of view, like, like if this thing has any melee defense, it should always have some range defense. Just that's what people would think, at least. Funny.
I don't know. RuneScape is at a very weird stage right now where like they can't really get anything into the game unless it already drops a significant amount of money. And I partially blame Jagex because, like, ultimately, it's them that make the decision to not nerf the bosses that they have currently and instead release something that's just better. That's the way they've done it for so long now, where it has to be better money than like what is there already. So they just make him drop alkaballs. And that's all we get. Just more and more alkaballs coming into the game. I know Hydra drops like a variety of stuff, but ultimately it is just gold.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah, I was just thinking. I don't know. That's so okay. Here's a question I have. It's kind of off topic slightly, but what do you think they could do to the Tamarin Scepter?
The Tamarin Scepter actually isn't all that useless, but because of what we have in the wilderness, not much of it is weak to magic. The Tamarin Scepter is a quite useful item for people that aren't 75 attack and want a cheaper option to a Master Wand or a Kodai Wand. But, they need to, I don't know, the wilderness lacks a lot of content that is like unique. I feel like the wildy bosses have already been solved to the point where like everything's just safe spottable and it doesn't even hit back. You just sit there and like whack it with a mace.
Yep.
I believe they are fixing that though, so we might see some use come out of it. I think Tamarin Scepter is best in slot though for Crazy Archaeologist, I believe, but it's just not dropping anything like valuable really.
And I think actually like a Harm is literally better than a Tamarin's everywhere, which is really silly.
That might be true actually.
That is silly to me. That you have a best in slot in a perfect situation. There's already another PVM item that outclasses it. Obviously, it's worth a bill, and this one's worth like what, pennies now? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's like 600k. I don't know.
Jesus
it's not
Christ. Yeah, it's really funny how I remember like way back, people were like hoarding these Tamarin Scepters, waiting for an update, and they were paying like $5 mil each to like start stocking up on these. I feel bad
Yeah,
for those that were.
I don't know why anyone would do that. That was like the item that I really would never expect to go up because it's just mage in this game for PVM just hasn't really been relevant outside of like TOB and like raids.
Yeah.
Like where else do you really use mage for anything?
Yeah, no. Okay, honestly, I keep thinking back to your point of making the Harmonized be able to cast every spell at 4 tick. I think that is. Oh, I think it's honestly genius. I was just thinking of like, in raids, just going back to like the skillers, like they will go to chambers to go get a Kodai to speed up Slayer because the Kodai is really fucking good.
Oh yeah, yeah, just the auto cast like the catacombs.
Exactly. But there's still like that trade-off. It's like, okay, do I do the raids? Do I try my luck here? And then there's Nightmare. So like, do you want to try your luck at a harm staff? And that would significantly speed up. So I'm starting to think, as long as you're okay, because I used to think there's no way we could do this because it would affect PvP too harshly. But if you're saying it wouldn't be that OP for like what actually does more DPS, Ice Barrage or Fire Surge with max?
I think Ice Barrage does slightly more DPS because of how accurate it is.
So if it was being sped up by 4 tick, would that be too busted?
See, the only really okay, so the only scenario where the Harmonized would be too overpowered, if I were to look at PvP and you could autocast ancients with it, is single team.
Okay.
That's like the only scenario where I can see it being too overpowered. Similar to the way the new bow is. The new bow is very overpowered if no one is hitting you back.
Yeah.
Which isn't really going to be the case for anyone except people that are in single teams. And even then, I'd say I led a single team for, nearly 5 years, I think. And over the years, I feel like a lot of people don't really. So the meta of tanking used to always be equip your staff and work on your prayers and focus on eating, and that was it. Nowadays, I kind of feel like a lot of people will put on their crossbows instead, turn on auto retaliate, and make sure that they're hitting whoever is on them back. Because, I mean, as hard hitting as range is now. If you're hitting someone back that's in Ancestral focusing you or like with an Armadillo switch, they don't really have that much defense.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Hitting them back is the better option because at least then you'll be making them brew and kind of like throwing them off so they have to keep repodding.
Yeah.
And also if they're switching opponents, so like if they're switching focuses with you, the order retail will make it so like they'll get one hit off where you can't see them, but straight after that you'll get a hit off on them and you'll see them at the top of the pile again.
Yeah. And I actually think now that Singles Plus is being introduced into all singles areas. Is that correct?
I don't think it's happened yet, has it?
No, it hasn't happened yet, but that's the plan.
Oh, yeah, it will be.
Okay. I think, I'm starting to think that could actually fucking work. Just make the harm staff. Make it so, if you have and it would also make the harm staff even more expensive. I really like how Nightmare currently is. And we were going back to Zulrah dropping just consistent money. Fasani's Nightmare, how it is right now, is honestly so fucking perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
You've done a little bit of Fasani's, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did it on the day of release, and I got a KC after like an hour.
Okay.
But for the most part, I've done regular Nightmare. It's been one of those. There's very little PVM content that I enjoy in the game. I mostly enjoy content like Zulrah because it's fast-paced, you're moving around, you're switching your items a lot.
Yeah.
Similar to PK.
Yeah.
So that's the type of PVM I enjoy. I don't really enjoy PVM where you're standing still or like just focusing on, let's say, like prayers. Nightmare is, I'd say it's a bit of variety. Kind of has both elements. But for the most part, you have to be kind of hyper-focused at Nightmare. If you make mistakes, they're fairly punishing.
I love how... I have a problem with normal Nightmare because it's just everything's way too rare, in my opinion. It's just, they just overshot it a bit. Things should be rare, but they shouldn't have been as rare as normal Nightmare was. And again, just a 20% reduction on that was perfect with Fasani's. And then the loot that you would get from normal Nightmare was just a little bit a little bit discouraging. And so I think they've just nailed it now, where it's still a little amount of loot relatively to other bosses, but it's like kind of like gives you a little bit of incentive. I don't know, just like the normal drop. When you get 500 blood runes now, it's like, oh shit, that's pretty good. So
Yeah, I mean, regardless, I really like the idea of bosses that don't really drop much, but when you do hit the jackpot,
I
you're
agree.
actually getting something of value. With Zulrah, it's like, I don't know, Zulrah, Vorkath, they're all kind of the same. You get the
Yeah, they're
rare drop and
boring.
you go, yeah, you
The
get the
drops are
rare drop
boring.
and you go, oh, I saved 3 hours. I got 3 hours of killing the boss free, pretty much,
Yeah.
and that's it. And it's just like, okay, cool. But with Nightmare, it's like, I think every drop there is like 100 mil plus, and you can even get the Harmonized, which is like close to 800 mil. I'm not sure what it's at currently, but it for the most part, it's been like a bill plus, right? So it's like hitting the jackpot. That could be a literal game changer for most people.
Yeah. Nah,
I'd
for
say there's
real.
very few people that would get like a 1 bill drop and you just kind of shrug it off.
Yeah. No, it's true. Like I think they've nailed it now. I don't know, man. I'm kind of like that idea of making every spell 4 tick with the harm.
Yeah, I feel like it's, I don't know. There's probably some PVM of that
Yeah,
knows a lot
we
more, like
yeah,
what implications it would have on the game or whatnot. But
100%. We'll need to see other viewpoints.
yeah, for PvP, I don't think it's that overpowered. People only think it's overpowered because they assume that like you're never going to be taking any damage back and you can sit there and autocast with it. But that's not really the case. I PK with Harmonized all the time. It's not like I just autocast 24/7 because if I get hit once, I'm gonna have to brew up.
Yep.
And then immediately I'm wasting ticks because I have to restore and then put the autocast back on.
Yep.
And by that time, I could have already gone hit again.
Yeah. Maybe it is balanced. We'll have to see, because I don't know. That's interesting. Okay, let's move on to some Twitter topics real quick. Um. Okay. I want to start off with, I guess, kind of a simple one. Spongy Towels asks, how do you think the PVM and PvP community could work together to get a fair update? So many people hate each other over this issue.
So this is a topic that I've been like thinking about so much over the past 2 years. Ever since like the initial Twitter versus Reddit thing kind of happened, I've been thinking about it. I think the main issue that people have with the wilderness is they feel they're forced to go into the wilderness. I don't agree with the fact that you're forced to go somewhere just because you don't have the best in slot item. But I can understand where they're coming from. At least I can understand that like it can be annoying. Um, and I think the solution to that is making the wilderness only drop stuff that is relevant to PvP and not PVM. I don't think the wilderness should drop anything that's relevant to skilling or PVM because it doesn't need to. The wilderness should be a place where even PKers should go PVM there because if they actually want the drops for like, let's say, VLS or like a Statius Warhammer, something like that, people would go do it, especially if it wasn't tradable.
Oh yeah, for real.
If people actually had to like PVM for stuff rather than just buying it, because that's the way that it currently is. Like I feel like all PKs just buy whatever items they need off of the GE, since they don't really need to PVM. If you're PKing for money, you're never gonna have to PVM.
So what would happen if you killed a person that had an untradeable Statius Warhammer? You just get money from it, or what?
I mean, that's the way it worked pre-EOC. I didn't really understand initially when what's it called? When there was talks about bringing VLS and stuff like that into the game. A lot of people were like disappointed with the fact that if you killed someone for a VLS back in the day, you didn't get the VLS. But that's fair in my opinion. I feel like that's the only way you can keep things expensive in today's economy.
So if you got a VLS, you would have to. I think initially it was like you charge it with 50 mil or something crazy. Or
Yeah, so the way it currently is like if you charge a VLS, well, to charge a VLS, you have to put 50 mil into it, and then if you die for that VLS, the opponent gets 50 mil.
and the VLS is gone from the game.
Yeah.
Okay, that would
Which,
definitely keep it at a. It
yeah, I mean,
would be OP,
it's
I guess.
it's relevant, I guess, but I mean, we don't have the VLS anywhere. I also found it very weird that VLS got repolled like 4 times, but Stadius Warhammer, Corrupt Armors, Morrigan Jabs, Axes, all of that you just didn't get repolled. The only focus people had was on the most overpowered item out of them all. I never really understood why VLS got so much attention, but the other items didn't. Because I feel like if you repolled the lesser overpowered items, Stadius Warhammer, Morrigan Axes, Jabs, and potentially the armors, I feel like they have a better chance at making it into the game than what the VLS does, and at least then we have something compared to nothing.
And then you could just slip in the VLS and be like, oh, this is thematically correct. You
Yeah,
just slip it in.
exactly, because then you already have
Yeah.
the other items, so people might be more accepting of getting the VLS in. So I don't know. I think Jagex' approach to that was definitely wrong. I know VLS was only 10 votes off of making it last poll, but I don't know. The fact that they've repolled it like 4 or 5 times didn't make sense to me. It almost aggravated me every time I saw it back in the poll.
Yeah, like they have a hard on for this VLS.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think of PvP worlds where people aren't PKing in the wilderness and they're just PKing around the world, like GE, Varrock, and stuff?
What, like the way we currently have PvP
Yep,
modes?
exactly. How it's been for years. Just when
I
people
think.
ask to like revive the wilderness, some of
Mhm.
the time it's like, well, all the PKers are spread out so thin. They're like, on different PvP worlds, just not even in the wilderness. And so, what do you think about all that?
So I think this is a very controversial opinion, which I know I've talked about it on stream. A lot of people don't agree with me. I don't think the way Jagex have done PvP on old school is very good because now you have people that, well, when Bounty Hunter existed, you had people that only wanted to do Bounty Hunter, and you had people that only wanted to do PvP, and you had people that only wanted to do Wilderness. And when the PVM community, not PVM, the PvP community just decreased over time, splitting them into three didn't really help at all. I think PvP doesn't really need to be there. Like the PvP worlds could be removed and instead be moved to the wilderness and keep the same type of formula where even if you are on level 1, you can attack someone that is like 10 combats above you. And I think that would be fine because the wilderness kind of always had the only way it got active and the way different spots were actually formed. So like West Drags used to be the place where low combat med levels or pures and zerks would go. East Dragons would be somewhere between that, but a few higher combats would also go there. So it would be a bit of a mix between med levels, not that many pures, but mainly med levels and like some higher combat mains sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you had like 44s, Deep Wilderness, Mage Bank. Those spots were mainly for main. And the only way those were formed was because people went into the wilderness and got curious and kind of moved around different spots. And eventually these locations formed and they all had like their unique type of accounts that would PK there. I think with PvP worlds, you're kind of removing that because no one's going into the wilderness without already having a designated spot that they want to go to. But when there's no curious people going around just testing different locations, because like if you make a new PK go into level 1 wild, eventually they might be like, well, I kind of want to find a more like calm place where there's not as many people and see if I can find any noobs. Similar to what PvP is. I mean, there's people that venture out in PvP worlds and you just go to random locations and you'll find a noob training.
Yep.
I think the wilderness needs that. And if I were to be honest, I think the wilderness getting revived kind of needs PvP worlds to be removed as well. They definitely can coexist, but I think if they are both in the game, the PvP worlds are always going to be more active than the wilderness, just
Yeah.
with the ease of access.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I don't know how I feel about it because I'm not a PKer, so I don't know the effects of it, but I always thought it was kind of silly that all the PvPers are kind of being spread thin because of PvP worlds. So, But
Yeah, I mean the fact that we got split into like three different categories from the beginning, like I don't know, I just thought it was ridiculous, and it's one of the main reasons why PvP has been on a decline for so long.
mm, okay, what do you think about BH? Uh, do you think Bounty Hunter can ever come back and be healthy?
Uh, that's a tough one.
I will say, just on my end, like I believe BH can be a really powerful update and really good for the game, but it needs moderation, which Jagex will just they can afford it, but they're not willing to put resources into it. They just need some
Yeah, I
moderation.
mean, hiring someone and telling them to go around and ban bots around the Pacific world doesn't exactly sound too enticing either. I can't really imagine that's easy to recruit someone to do.
Yeah, and I mean, it would just take. I mean, it's not like the person is running around the game, but just have a couple people just monitoring BH. You know, like I mean, I know that's gonna be some extra money and stuff, but like that doesn't sound too bad to like just see if there's abuse going on and just get rid of it. Like there's so many games with moderation, and like Jagex just refuses to moderate their own game. I feel like.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I feel like Jagex are just they're not very keen on moderating anything that they release. They'd rather remove it as a whole than
Yeah,
actually put some effort into moderating it. But
because that.
regardless, I
Yeah.
actually agree with ModMac K. I think ModMac K got a lot of hate for holding back BH, but the reason ModMac K held back BH for as long as he did was because he said it wasn't ready. And I agree. I don't think BH was ready. When they released it, in the initial BH release didn't get boosted as much, but it was still a problem. Then they removed it, got it out again. Same thing happened. Did the same thing. Just it happened over and over again. I don't think BH was ready at all, and I don't really know what they could do to solve it because it's not really something that I've put that much thought into. I know a lot of people seek answers from like content creators and whatnot, but like we don't know everything.
Yeah.
And I think people like Jagex probably know. I mean, I know it's a bit of a meme to say they know better than us because I mean
But they
they've
have
obviously
all
fucked up.
the statistics and
Yeah,
shit like
exactly.
that.
They have all the data that they need to actually make these decisions. Obviously, they've made some wrong decisions in the past, but ultimately, content creators don't have access to the same stuff that Jagex does, so it's hard for us to actually know what is right for the game.
Yeah. Yeah. There was another thing in the blog talking about bank keys or loot keys
Hmm.
where you can go bank them. I mean, now I'm just thinking like in conjunction with BH if it was ever released and moderated correctly, and I think it would be really cool almost as if those bank keys or I keep calling them bank keys, loot keys, uh, were just given throughout the entire wilderness. Like, what do you think about loot keys? Is that good for the game? How they're
It
currently proposed?
depends. Um, I think loot keys are a interesting concept that probably would benefit majority of the PKs. If I'm thinking back to like my single PKing days of like leading a team and whatnot, though, I think my biased opinion, if I were to think of it out of single PKing perspective, was that it would make it even harder for single teams to kill other single teams again, which is already extremely difficult. That's kind of why you see them on such a decline. There used to be a lot of teams roaming the game. Now you don't really have that many. I think there's about three that are actually big and like relevant to compete enough with each other. But I think for your average PKer and majority of the player base, loot keys are a good update.
I think it's a cool idea. The more I heard about it, I was like, okay, like this makes sense, and it also can't remember where I was hearing it. I think it was on that podcast, the OSR's podcast, where they're talking about how you could kill somebody, but like you know how for example like Zammy wine bots and Green Dragon bots, it's almost not worth to even kill them because like you're not even going to be able to loot all their stuff because they just have so much junk. It's
Hmm.
like at least this will encourage it. So it's like you kill them, boom, one thing picked up, move on. You're not like
Yeah,
spam
yeah,
clicking a pile.
that I can definitely agree with. It will make it more worthwhile to actually kill the people that are collecting wilderness.
Yeah, I think it'll
But
be
like
good.
I don't know. I think going back to the bounty hunter thing, bounty hunter definitely could succeed if all the drops were untradeable. If everything in the store that you could buy with emblems was untradeable, like what was the actual need of like blighted items and whatnot being tradable?
Yeah. Those I blighted items weren't even pulled, were they? They just kind of came into the game.
I think so. Yeah, I don't recall them being pulled.
It's just such a. I mean, I understand. You know, it's kind of a simple art. It's simple to say that's private servery, but like the wilderness is really, in my eyes, at least some aspects of it has really kind of become this private server where it's like use these different resources that can't be used anywhere else. I mean, who knows
Yeah.
if it's good for the game? And to be fair, I don't have many complaints about it. I just feel like the look of it is just so weird. It's like, which
Yeah, so
maybe that's how the game has to, go down. Like that's the path it has to go down to, like, I don't fucking know. It was weird though.
yeah, I remember my brother recently came back into the game. The same brother that actually got me playing in 2007. He came back about last month, and he's been watching my streams and whatnot, and he doesn't know what like half the items I use in are anymore. He doesn't like exactly know what I'm wielding and like all these new items. Like in general, the game's very confusing for him.
Yeah.
Uh, like the blighted items and whatnot, all of that, it just doesn't seem like a RuneScape item really. Uh,
Yeah.
I agree with you. It really seems like some type of private server item.
Yeah.
But I do think blighted items could fit into the game, and the bounty hunter store could be relaunched as long as everything was just untradeable on there, and the only thing they benefited was PvP, nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's just kind of the look of it. It's not like I'm advocating against it. It's fine how it kind of is right now. What are your thoughts on this is a topic I brought up on multiple casts and multiple rambles of them now polling and or not polling, sorry. They're them just putting out into the game from the wilderness changes, getting rid of skull tricking. I want to hear your thoughts on it.
uh, um, there's like one side of me that's just like, well, you just put your attack options off, you moron. But like,
Yeah.
at the same time, I get it. If Jagex feel like it's enough of a problem, which they obviously do, they've taken the statistics into account and they've said, okay, skull tricking is a problem, we're gonna remove it. That's fine. It doesn't affect me. I don't think it will affect that many people either. Like, it's genuinely not a problem, but if they feel like it's unethical to skull trick in the same way that like luring was made bannable, I believe, in like 2011 or something like that. It's just Jagex taking a stance against something that they consider unethical, is the way I view it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have anything against it, but I also don't think that them removing skull tricking is going to get all these people that previously PVM'd in the wilderness and got skull tricked are all of a sudden going to start like getting an interest in PKing because they're fighting people back now without the fear of getting skull tricked. I don't really think that's going to happen. And if it does happen, it'll be like a very, very minor increase to PvP.
So, my thoughts on it as an Iron Man, I have always been a fan of this suggestion since I first saw it on Reddit. At first, I thought, this guy is a dumbass for even requesting this, making the whole game easy escape. But then the more I thought about it, having an option that is, you cannot skull, basically, it encourages fighting back. And it actually, you're saying a small percentage of people would ever actually fight back, honestly. So, me being an Iron Man, me going out in the wilderness, and killing the bosses how they are now, which I know there's going to be reworked and stuff, but like going out with a crossbow or going out with a mace, I have one of those. It took me 3 fucking months to get them. There is no way in hell I'm going to be sculling with this, or even attacking it. I do not want to skull, so I will just turn my attack options off and just run because it is not worth it to go back for 3 months in case I accidentally mess up, or click something I wasn't supposed to click somebody.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I understand that as well, which is kind of why I brought up like the fact that if Jagex thinks it's like an unethical thing to do, then that's their decision. I don't really feel like
I don't even think it's
keeping skull
really.
tricking is healthy. I don't think removing it is gonna make a big difference. It's just it's a bit of like, oh yeah, whatever. Like
I don't actually
uh,
think it. I don't even think it really comes down to ethics. I think it really comes down to I can now, and I feel like other people. Again, not everyone's thinking this way, but me personally, having done LMS, feeling, I can hold my own. If I'm ready to fight somebody else, I can hold my own. But
mhm.
me being an Iron Man, and a ton of the community is now an Iron Man. I can't say the majority or anything, but there is a definitely huge influx of Iron Men recently, and because they've made it so now when you kill a main as an Iron Man, they can't reclaim their shit. It'll probably make you feel pretty good if there's somebody ragging you and then you kill them. And me being able to go out in the wilderness, kill something, and then get attacked and have claws as well as some other switches, some venge and stuff, and get ready to fight and guarantee I don't skull because I wasn't the one that initiated the fight is beautiful. I actually want to go out and fight people now. Like I want to be attacked almost. Like that sounds exciting. Like, okay, you initiated on me. I'm going to go ham on you, for fun because now I have zero risk. And I feel like that's beautiful. And I know it's kind of getting rid of that like whole risk where it's like, oh, I could get skull tricked. Like, I guess people
Yeah,
could argue that.
it takes away a big part of the like I guess the element of like the wilderness being a scary place.
Exactly. It does get rid of that, but I feel like I'm glad they're taking this risk. And again, I like how you worded on your stream saying like if Jagex puts all these things in, they really should be willing to revert it if it goes south. I agree.
Yeah, that's the main concern I have, and Jagex doesn't have the best track record either of removing item, not removing items, sorry, like revoking updates that were bad for the game.
Yeah.
I think if this goes out, I've spoken to a user as well, and like from what I gathered from him was obviously if they can tell by statistics that this is at a bad like change on the wilderness, then they will revert it. But the question is it going to be too late when they do it? And I think that's where the concern is.
Yeah. I can see that.
But also, the counter argument to like the whole skull tricking thing is also, I think there's going to be significantly less people that attack PVMers now, since one of the if you're ever PKing with your friend, if I see someone tallying up to like KVD for example, and like a twisted bow or like a, I don't know, just like armadillo pieces, anything of value.
Yep.
Obviously, I'll give it a go. I'll see if I can skull trick him, and then if they don't get skull tricked by like the most simple skull trick, I'll leave them alone. But I think nowadays, a lot of people that have had that attitude before are just no longer going to bother with attacking PVMs. Which for PVMs is a win, but for PKers, I think it could potentially be like a bit of a bad update. But
And I can
I don't
see
know.
it from the PKers perspective. This is a nerf to them.
Yeah,
But I can also see it like it's always been very lopsided. Being a PVMer in the wilderness, everything, the odds, everything is against you. You're not geared to PK. PKers don't have random expensive PVM items in their inventory that they could potentially lose. They are fully geared and know what their risk is and have a perfectly set up inventory with brews and everything. The PVMer is getting like they have no chance to even fight back hardly because it's a very lopsided fight, and I think this could actually bring some balance back. That's my humble opinion. Who knows? We'll see. But it does
yeah. I mean,
excite
I
me.
don't necessarily disagree with you either. I think regardless of what if they did it or not, I think it's not going to have a big change on the wilderness, and it's not something that
That's
I think
fair.
PKs even need to care about, honestly.
That's fair. I think it's just a good change. Me as an Iron Man, not as a PvPer. So
Yeah.
okay, this is kind of a good one. So it's a two-part. The first one's a meme, but a cold one is asking, "What is your favorite fruit and why is it papaya?" Wait, is that a
I don't know if that's a reference. I'm pretty sure that's a reference to a mistake I made on DMM where
what happened?
it required papyrus, which was a word that I have never heard in my life. I have never heard the word papyrus. So a lot of people think I'm English when I'm not. So I'm Swedish, and like English is my second language.
Yeah.
So I had no idea what that was, and like I guess I didn't clock it in my brain, but like I just thought, oh, papaya. So I can't remember what quest it is. Is the one where you fly the balloon? But I went and brought papayas, and I got memed to shit because of that.
Oh my god, that is awesome. Okay, yeah,
But
that's
apparently, papyrus is a piece of paper. Did
yeah.
not know that.
I always think papyrus is a font because that was always like the font. At least in so I took some graphic design classes, and like they
Hmm.
were always like papyrus and Comic Sans is always off limits. Those are like the most newbie forms of font, basically. And so I always kind of relate papyrus to that. Okay, his second question is out of all the changes suggested in the recent blog, which change do you think is the overall most beneficial to the PvP scene and why?
Overall, most beneficial. Um, God. See, I think this is where people kind of expect you to say like a single plus, but I think single plus is a massive gamble. The sole update that I think is just good overall is probably the Revenant boss. I think the Revenant boss lacks actual rewards right now, but the Revenant boss itself, as long as they actually add some incentive to kill it, could be a game changer for the Revenant cave.
Mangt had suggested that it drops Laren's keys. And then he also said some other buff thing. I
Yeah,
don't
I still think Laren's keys is not necessarily enough, but having a guaranteed Laren's key drop could, I mean, yeah, it definitely adds some form of incentive, but like the way the way it currently is, I think it drops like what, free Revenant Dragon loots or
yeah,
rolls.
which is really awful
Yeah,
considering
I
it's
mean,
going to be
depending how
masked
hard,
maybe. Yeah.
if the boss is gonna be like 100 HP, then sure, I get it. But like, if it's actually gonna be like tough to kill, and it's like something that's announced, so everyone goes and piles onto it, like, no, that's not good at all.
Yeah.
That's like the worst thing I could ever think of.
So I can't remember exactly. Was the boss in a certain location at all times? Because I remember there's like superiors, I believe, which are or I honestly can't even remember. Is the boss in a certain multi area in the cave? Is that what they're suggesting, or was it just they spawn anywhere? Because it's still singles plus in
So
the cave, right?
yeah, it's still single plus as far as I'm aware, and any so like multiple people can attack the Revenant boss, but you can't like pile on to a player. It can only be one
Okay, so
player
it's
attacking another player.
so that boss exclusively can be multi like that. It's as if that boss is in multi, but we're all still in singles plus. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, I believe that's how it is, if I remember correctly.
And they can spawn throughout the cave. It's like an RNG after a rev has been killed that it'll just spawn.
Yeah, I believe. I don't know if it's necessarily every rev. I think it's only the higher tier
Oh
ones.
yeah, that's what
So
they
like the
suggested.
Knight, the Dragon,
Orc
maybe
and
the Dark Beast and whatnot.
oh yeah, Dark Beast. Yeah.
But it's only that it's essentially a like superior Slayer monster is the way I view it.
Okay. What? Okay, so here is a idea. So a lot of Iron Men are pissed off that wilderness weapons take forever to get. So currently they take about 250 hours efficiently to get a specific weapon. That is
Hmm.
about 85 hours to get a weapon. And then if you're unskulled, it just ups it. So it's like 450 hours. So you should just always be skulled, which is fine. That's cool. And I'm glad that they're introducing the new Avarice update to make it so like the Avarice is actually best in slot.
Yeah, I think that's a good update as well.
Yep, I agree. So they instead in the poll, instead of them making it so the weapons are buffed, they just buff the loot by 50%. And so I've heard a few irons that are just complaining. It's like this is literally just incentivizing. Like they're fine with it, I guess, but it's like I don't know. I guess in Jagex's eyes, it's a good thing because people will just are if they want to get a wilderness weapon, they just have to stay out for the most. They have to, still be out there for those same amount of hours, but they're getting up.
Yeah,
I don't
see,
know.
the problem with that is there's already so many in the game. I understand that for irons it is definitely annoying, but the way it currently is, it's like there's so many in the economy that I think buffing the drop rate would just devalue them even more.
Yeah, no, that's a good
Which
point. Looking at it from an economy perspective, I agree.
Yeah, I think I definitely understand that Ironman can be annoyed by the fact that they take so long to get, but with the way the economy is currently, I don't see the point of like nerfing the drop rate because it would just devalue them to the point where they become like less than 5 mil.
Yeah.
And I think crossbow currently, the lowest I saw crossbow was I think 6 mil, which
God.
is very close. Right now it's 17 mil. It shot back up after the proposed WildE changes. I don't know. I don't see. Maybe they could make it like easier for Ironman, but then it's just catering to
Nah,
Ironman,
yeah,
and
no. I
yeah,
just
that's not gonna happen.
I guess how I saw it was I don't know. Instead of going for because a lot of people on Twitter, again, my own echo chamber that I follow is
Yeah.
a lot of people are just wanting revs to not be so fucking rare to get things. Because a lot of things are extremely rare, like almost unwarranted, especially when you're looking at from a if you played this game as a single player mode and you wanted to complete the wilderness, you would go for like the wilderness paths, but before that you'd want to get the weapons. But the fact that getting a weapon takes longer than all those boss grinds themselves is just silly, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand that. At the same time, though,
Yeah.
it is kind of like too far gone to do something like that.
Yep.
So,
And to be
I
fair,
don't think Jagex can do that.
yeah, and this is not my own agenda. I already got all the weapons. I spent my fair share there in the wilderness and got all. So this is not my I guess I've just heard a lot of arguments about it, but the cool
Hmm.
thing is, I guess, for those Ironmen that do have to still spend that many hours, you're going to be getting 50% more loot. And the amount of ether you get, like if you were to get a weapon in, let's say, 30 hours, like you're going to have to go back for ether, probably, for the most part anyway. So the fact that wildy weapons do take that long is kind of fine, in my opinion, because you're always going to have to go back to farm ether.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with that. In a sense, you always will have to come back eventually,
Yeah.
especially if you go dry on, let's say, whatever boss you were planning on doing in the wilderness anyway.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to go back and get the ether. So, I mean, if you get one weapon, you maybe run out of ether, you have to go far more. You'll have a chance at getting the other weapon that you want. So,
Exactly. They did say that the Rev caves would turn like there would be a section of multi, correct, and a section of singles. Was that how it was proposed? I think they wanted to kind of bring
um,
back some sort of multi revs, and that would. I need to review it again, but I'm pretty sure.
I'm not too sure on that one. I don't recall that.
Okay, maybe I'm just delusional, but I thought I heard something about that where like they kind of want to introduce some sort of multi revs just to kind of keep. Oh, it must not have been in the blog. It must have been what I saw on a suggestion on Twitter, like bring back part of it as multi or something like that, because people really
Yeah, I
love the
mean,
multi aspect.
yeah, the multi community is crying out for attention as well because I mean the way it currently is like unless there is a setup fight between two teams, there's not really any incentive to go anywhere. The
Yeah,
way it used to be was like lava drags was the hotspot, but lava drags are completely dead now. So yeah, I don't know. I think Revenant Cave multi was probably the most active Wilderness has ever been, at least in like the multi aspect of it, and it brought some attention to single too. Since I mean, if there's people going in there, there's still a part of it that's multi. I mean, that's single because you have to get there, and most people would Revenant tally up, which is still single, and you could there's like a food chain that's just created off of killing people before they get into multi and stuff like that. So
yeah. Okay. Uh, let's see. So here's a question by Woobliest. He says, "Do you think this update is going to ruin it for small groups of friends casually PKing? That's probably the most fun way to play this game."
I'd say for normies, like people that aren't very experienced, yes, it will. Um, I can't imagine people being able, like, kind of like your average PKer going into the wilderness and knowing how to like properly tag each other off in single plus and getting a DD, making sure you have the last hit. That's going to be very tough for them to learn, and most people won't be able to do it. And I think that's kind of what single plus is really killing here is the actual like friend aspect of the game. It's kind of turning the wilderness into like a solo, almost like an Iron Man experience.
Yeah.
Which, yeah,
We're just not sure how it's gonna play out. Basically, we've never
yeah,
tried it.
exactly. I think it's a massive gamble, but ultimately, to answer his question, I think yeah, it will. It will definitely will kill off like people PKing together in groups now.
At least I feel. I mean, they are keeping multi, the same multi spots multi, and so when I've been
Yeah,
attacked by newbie PKers, it's usually at Lava Dragons, Vedion, other kind of multi areas. So like that's still there at least, but
I think the main issue with people that also say like, oh well, you still have multi is like comparing multi and single is just it's so flawed in the aspect of like if I go multi, I can't bring any expensive items with me because I can get maced for it.
yep.
I can't bring multiple. Even if I bring like the best in slot gear, 5 people in Xerix with D'hide will still kill me in like 30 seconds,
Yeah.
if even that. If they have the right amount of RNG, they'll kill me really fast.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's a fair point.
And in single, you at least. I know a lot of people think that, like, oh, yeah, single teams just. If you get hit by one, you're guaranteed that. That's not really the case. I led a single team for like 5 years. I'd say the actual success rate of every single person you hit for them to die, regardless if they're a noob or not, it's more like almost. I'd say less than like 40%.
Okay. And it depends how deep you started. I remember watching Abyss. He was doing like tank tests against him. He'd start in like 55 wildy and just run down, see if he could make it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many factors that come into play.
Yeah.
Our RuneScape is an RNG game at the end of the day.
Yeah. But you do
So
need very good coordination to be a singles team. What I appreciate about Singles Plus, there's a lot of things, but one of those is that I can't just have horrible RNG and run into a singles team and die because as I know you're saying it's not a guaranteed success rate, but it is very high if you're not properly stocked with brews and stuff that you could die pretty easily. Just because
yeah,
you're getting constantly frozen and then you're getting frozen by a guy in full ancestral and then you're getting clawed out by a guy in bandos with claws and shit. And it's just like that scares me because even singles is really, really dangerous. And so I'm kind of glad that I can be in singles and feel somewhat safe. Like, okay, like I'm not going to just randomly run into a team of 50 or 20
so
or something.
the counter argument to that is that I think newbie players are going to suffer more from single plus than regular single because of the fact that majority of the people you're going to run into are not going to be a properly organized single team. Even if they are, even if you get hit by a group of people, it doesn't mean that they're actually going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And having groups of NPCs actually being able to help you, for the most part, is nearly always what loses you the kill as a team.
That's true.
And it's extremely easy to lose a kill to an NPC because NPCs on this game always have PID.
Yep.
So if you are next to an NPC and next to a player, and the NPC is always going to hit you first, and then it's just up to you to have your auto retail on, and if you have that on, you're always going to get the hit with it.
That's a good point. For newbie players,
With
yeah.
single plus, like the newbie players are still going to get teamed. They're still going to be able to have someone tag off them all day. The only thing that like a newbie player can prevent, do to prevent being teamed upon is getting last hit. If they get last hit over and over again, then yeah, they can't get teamed. But a newbie player isn't going to know that, and they're not going to know how to execute it properly. They're not going to be smart enough to like outplay a person that is a good PKer PKing with another good PKer.
Yeah.
So I think single plus almost makes a good PKer unkillable and the newbie players easier kill. But the trade-off is that you can have fair 1v1s. So good PKers can have fair 1v1s with good PKers and potentially kill each other. But for the most part, I think newbie PKers are going to struggle heavy with this. But I guess in a sense, newbie PKers can find another newbie PKer and have a fair 1v1. So
What
I
I
don't know.
saw,
It's a
yeah,
gamble.
what I saw in Wilderness and some arguments, I remember reading a bunch of threads on it, and one of the things was now in singles plus, whenever it comes out, basically because it is very, very hard to die in singles plus, you can actually risk quite a bit, is that there's going to be people in full ancestral, Ellie, everything else, and they are going to abuse everybody else. And
Yeah,
in
that's
my
true.
mind, I'm thinking that's actually fucking beautiful, because now it's encouraging. If you're a good enough PKer, you're risking a fuck ton because you're so confident that you won't die, but at least that risk is there now. So this is encouraging not camping mystics all the time and other shit. Like I feel like even though, yeah, it's unfair for those that are just poor and can't afford max gear, it's at least encouraging bringing out way better gear so that you can just always win. I think it's cool. I don't know. I understand the argument.
Yeah, but the count. I feel like, yeah, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I also very much feel like that's gonna bring up the argument again of the skill gap just being too big.
Yeah, yeah.
And the good PK, if a good PKer is just going out there farming 20 noobs, I mean, eventually one of those 20 noobs is just going to be like, what's the point in this? Like I'm just being killed by people that literally cannot die. They're too good and they have too like good gear.
Yeah. But at
So
least because RuneScape is RNG, you always have that chance. Like if you truly wanted to, you could just bring, claws or like an AGS and a Gmaul and just hopefully one of these days that RNG will just go your way when he's in full ancestral and just get a
the danger I see with that though is that a person that is that good, if there is enough of those people just roaming around and everything
Yeah.
and killing the noobs, it's gonna kill off more players than or like it's gonna make people stop returning into the wilderness and eventually
Yeah.
just get it on a decline again.
Yeah, I can see that, but I can also see that being in singles plus, if you do know what you're doing and you get good, you can escape
You can
almost every
still
time.
escape,
Yeah.
yeah. If you look at the Rev Cave currently, like I can't remember fully, but I don't think I've died in a Rev Cave yet. I've had some very clutch escapes,
Yeah.
but
No, I was
uh,
same. I have not died yet since it became singles plus. And yeah,
I think
I've
the
been
Rev Cave
chanced
just
a few times, but
yeah, I think the Rev Cave in general is just a very easy place to escape. Which is also, I don't know, it's kind of killed off my interest because like it's so hard to die, and even for a player, like I'd consider myself in the top like 0.1% of PKers in the game currently,
yeah, I agree.
and I still struggle so hard to kill people in that Rev Cave, and it's like it's almost aggravating because it's like your skill doesn't even matter. All they need is one lucky freeze, and you're gone.
Yeah.
You don't have that kill
Yeah,
anymore.
that's true. So what would you say if it is in singles plus, they increased the I guess they shoved just this is not going to happen, but theoretically if they put the cave into 50 level 50 wilderness, but it's singles plus, so they can't actually just walk under you. Well, I mean, I guess they can walk under and log out. I forgot about that. I'm just
Yeah,
thinking
I
of
mean,
them.
the main problem with the Rev Cave, especially, is the amount of corners, the amount of. So, like, the way that
Yeah.
agility obstacles work in single plus is absolutely broken. It does not fit into it whatsoever. The same way with going in and out the cave repeatedly, it doesn't work. It shouldn't be there.
And they're
Like,
fixing that though,
it's
right?
too overpowered. They're fixing the middle one, but they're not doing anything to the top and the bottom one, which
Interesting.
I find very bizarre. But. Uh, yeah, like I said, like for example, the agility obstacles in the Rev Cave. If you are two tiles behind, like ahead of me, and I'm focusing you, if you then jump that obstacle and I splash once, you're gone. I am then gapped and can't get to you anymore, and you can get like a log, which is it's too easy
Yeah.
to get a two tile gap on your opponent. It's almost always going to happen. And the way that obstacles work as well is that even if I freeze you on the other side, you can just keep jumping until eventually I'm like
Make
you're
one
unfrozen on
misclick
the
or
other
something.
side of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. And this is, I mean, Yeah, I like kind of how you bring it back to the point of like newbie people, because there's just some people that just don't know about that. So when you're attacking a newbie person, like you'll most likely you actually have a way higher chance of getting a kill. But yeah, if you're fighting against an experienced person that also knows everything you know, I agree. It can.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Rev Caves currently, it was very fun for like the first, I'd say 2 months of the update, but now it's kind of come to a standstill where I don't even enjoy it anymore because too many people escape me when I personally feel like my skill just doesn't even matter
Yeah.
because the game's just up to way too much RNG for me to even be remotely in control of how they're gonna escape. Like, let's say I full TB someone, for me to have 5 minutes of them not getting one freeze back on me where they can just run around a corner is you need to have so much luck.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. No, that's a good point. I like it personally because I feel like I can, have fair fights and not die as because when you beforehand when it's the whole thing's in multi, you're just like you just expect to die. You're like, I'm gonna die no matter what. If a team logs in, I'm dead. Like I just have to accept that.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard to escape in so what if I don't know if this would ever work out. This is just one of my I guess ideas, but what if they came out with instead of multi, it's duo? So there was
That would be interesting.
so I'm just
But
thinking multi, but it can only be two people attacking you at once.
see, the thing is, I don't know how this would ever be implemented
I know.
mechanically. I feel like it's a cool idea, but just like envisioning how Jagex would do it,
Yeah.
I just feel like it would be so broken.
See, what I think would be really cool, who knows how this would work, but imagine this. There's a new Rev cave. Like Revs are now duo plus. And so what it comes down to, I know, and I'm not going to go into the intricacies of it because who decides who are the two people attacking you? Like, like
Yeah, exactly.
so those are the intricacies about it. But I just imagine you go out with your friend, so you have two PVMers, that so you're kind of like sort of tag team, and you have like your buddy, and then a buddy of the PKers will come out, and then you guys just have like a 2v2 sort of. But you can't ever just log out during it because there's always like another person, unless you both caught the freeze at the exact same time and you walked under each other, like but.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, who
But
knows how it would actually work out though.
yeah, it would be complete chaos. I feel like because you could have like I don't know, it could just be like, oh, I'm gonna go PVM with my buddy. Oh wait, I see a PK. All right, like you have your buddy box you while there's just one
Yeah,
PK on you.
that's true. It wouldn't really work out, but I just think in theory that would be kind of fun because then it would prevent all that, and you'd have friends, like you'd have your buddy with you as well.
Yeah, I mean it'd be an interesting concept. It's just I don't know, actually seeing it come
Yeah,
into the game.
yeah, that couldn't that couldn't really work out that well, unless, yeah, no, it wouldn't really work out. I just keep thinking of things that it contradicts the other. Yeah, interesting. I'm just trying to think of anything else that could prevent that. What if? So, is singles plus is the timer it takes to like log out? Do you think if they made it so it's like a couple ticks shorter of a PJ timer, would that fix it, or is that not good enough? Like, do you think the fact
shorter?
I guess what I'm trying to say is like if you caught the freeze, walked under it, you being able to. I guess the fact that you are frozen.
Or
makes
like
it
even if you don't get last hit, you can log, or are you saying like the opposite?
Let me try to think. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a way where you can't just log out.
My original proposal that I thought would be the best, if Jagex truly wanted like players to have a 1v1 area where only and only 1v1 was possible, unless you were really stupid and just didn't click the logout button when you could, would be to like change the rev cave so it has its current PJ timer, but you up it by like 2 seconds. That way, even if you freeze and hug someone and they get a last hit on you, you can still get a log without anyone PJing you. That would be the ultimate 1v1 experience because you couldn't get teamed unless you actually like just didn't log out when you could.
Mm.
And keeping the way the wilderness is in its current format to kind of like draw stats of what players prefer. Because if I feel like if players only wanted 1v1 fights where it's fair, then obviously that place would flourish. And if you notice that the wilderness wasn't getting any activity, then it would be easy to kind of draw a conclusion from there.
Yeah.
Currently, Rev Caves is very flawed in the sense that like single plus is like a false illusion of a fair 1v1. It's not actually a fair 1v1. If you go to the Rev Caves right now, I can guarantee you that at least half, and I'm being generous, have a team. Or at least one buddy that
Yeah.
they're gonna either TB you and then switch off, or just tag team you.
Yeah. I've seen that recently.
It happens nearly every single time I run into someone at the Rev Cave. And one of the main things I always lose kills to when I'm PKing in the Rev Cave is even if I'm outplaying my opponent, they just go outside and then they have a like they can either have their mate hit me and the opponent get a log, or they can just box each other.
Yeah.
And immediately my kill is lost and everything I did is just rendered useless. And the worst thing to that is that even if I'm like winning my fight versus someone and they go outside, I can then get TB'd by anyone and
Yeah,
then they
that's
have a focus on me and it's been switched.
that's true. That's fucked up.
I haven't died to that yet because like obviously I don't really overstay all that much. Like I'm very aware of my supplies. So I don't take that many risks, but there has been a lot of close calls like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so tough to like just get it down. I hope this update that they're gonna just bring out kind of teaches us a lot of what could work and what couldn't work.
Yeah, I know it sounds like I'm very against single plus now. I'm not completely against the idea. I just think Jagex are taking a massive gamble on something, and the main thing I'm worried about is that if it fails, they need, and I cannot fucking say it enough, they need to be able to just revert it. And if they don't do that, then I think it's gonna go like the wilderness and PvP is just gonna continue to go on a decline.
Yeah.
They need to make sure that they're not too late before they revert it if it goes wrong. But if it does bring a lot of activity, then that's good. I don't mind. Ultimately, it benefits my style of play.
Yeah.
I don't team PK anymore. I haven't done it for a year. So, I mean, it's just beneficial for me.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to see what happens, and it's just, hopefully Jagex. I feel like they're getting more competent over time. At least that's what I like to think. So I hope that. I mean, I don't know about in regards to PvP. I'm not really focused on that, but at least with designing content like bosses and stuff, they've definitely started to understand what is fun and what isn't, and what is good for the game. So
I think with PvP they're still very much confused, but at least they have unlimited resources of people that they can ask for opinions.
Yes.
However, one of the main problems are that PvPers just don't agree with each other.
Yep.
We don't agree with each other on a lot, and that's the core issue of PvP is that, for example, if you take like the tweet that I think Ian put out, I'm sure you've seen it, of like the content creators like talking to the JMods, that got so much hate because
it's certain PK, like it's not everyone has the same opinion, right?
yeah, exactly. And a lot of the argument that I saw getting brought up a lot was these people don't even go into the wilderness that much. Why are you listening to them?
Yeah.
And although Ian did say later on that like they didn't actually like ask us for changes, but rather just to like tell us early about the updates, which I'm not even sure why they did that. Like, what's the point of that really?
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna tell you, but like you can't change anything that's gonna happen. And it's like, okay, cool. What's the point then? You just make us wait like everyone else. Now you just made this massive like fuel, like this massive flame that you just kept getting fuel added onto it. And I don't know. I just didn't think it was very like a wise decision, I guess. But
Yeah, but Yeah, who knows? I'm also glad that Jagex isn't polling this. I mean, not like they can poll anything without it just getting 50%. I feel like anything PvP related is just gonna get 50%, 50%. Like,
Yeah, but that's a problem that needs to be addressed as well. I don't think the polling system works in the current day of age. I think the polling system probably should have been removed like 3 years into the game. Um, but one of the massive, like the bigger problems that us as PvPers need to solve is kind of need to like, I don't know, get more of like an even page with the PVMers and skillers of this game. And I think the only way to solve that is not by forcing them into the wilderness, but rather agreeing that wilderness updates should only benefit PvP and nothing else.
yeah,
And I think that way it's hard for a PVMer or skiller, unless they just spite vote, to actually say no. Because like, if it's only something that's relevant in PvP, why should they say no?
yeah. The what they would have to do though before that can happen is get rid of uniques in the wilderness. I mean, if in a perfect situation, because there already is incentive to go into the wilderness. So
Yeah, which can be done by the way, but obviously Jagex don't have the biggest track record of like going back on stuff.
yeah,
So
I agree. Okay, Perfect Salad is asking, do you think limiting a specific wilderness activity to a set of worlds would increase wilderness activity as a whole, making world exclusive hotspots a thing? Obviously, post singles plus. Haven't put much thought into this idea. I've heard before. And
I
then,
think I agree with like Mangt and Ian on like limiting the world thing, which is it's just a band-aid fix. Like, sure, it will make the wilderness seem more active, but ultimately the problem is that PvP isn't active enough to actually supply the amount of worlds we have
yeah,
when realistically it should be. Um, and I think the better thing to focus on should be that every world should have enough people in the wilderness in them because like there should be enough incentive to go there.
yeah. I just,
So I don't know. I think yeah, it could be a temporary fix for sure, but long term, I don't really see the point of it.
I agree. And I'm also scared if they limit it to too few worlds, then there's just going to be lockdowns.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're gonna have all the same recycled problems that we've had before.
Yeah. So interesting. What do you think about having like multiple rev caves? This is not something I'm advocating for. I just want to hear your thoughts on it. Not so. I mean, right now they've already done a pretty good job because it's a giant cave and there's revs everywhere, and they're even adding more revs. There's adding like 2 more rev spots to like every current spot or something, or 1 more.
What? So you mean like multiple, but like smaller rev caves?
Yeah, I guess just kind of spread throughout the wilderness. I don't think it's that big of an issue, but I just want to kind of cross it by you, just see what you think about that.
I mean, the main thing I'd have to ask is like, what's the point of it?
Yeah, and
What would be the benefit of
yeah,
multiple rev caves?
it's already singles plus, so it's kind of irrelevant. But I remember before just kind of spacing things out more. But yeah,
Yeah,
there isn't
I
really a
guess
point
so.
anymore.
Yeah, I think that one's like a tough one to answer because like I don't see the point and I don't see what negatives could come with it, but I don't really see the positives either.
I saw a picture of a map that is expanding the wilderness north.
The Wilderness 2 map, yeah.
Yep. What do you think about
That
that?
was a project that I was initially on as well. Um, I don't think that could work anymore. I mean, the updates that were proposed. So I think this was a project originally begun in 2018. A lot of the stuff that was in, like the stuff that we worked on, kind of exist in the game now in another form. So one of them was to bring back a Karasi, but in the form of a Dragonfire blade.
Mm.
Which, if you look at the Wilderness 2 map, I believe there's something that was called a Dragon's Lair or something like that. That was going to be where QBD, or like the Queen Black Dragon, would be. That would drop this blade. And then there would also be a Revenant boss, which is already what we're getting. So I don't know. I think that project was definitely it was good. We spent a lot of time on it. I remember I spent hours looking up the RuneScape lore and like learning about like Zamrak and
Yeah.
Saradomin's history and like what the RuneScape lore has done with the gods like a way that we could integrate it so it fits into the story of
Yeah.
RuneScape without
That's awesome.
just completely being like I don't know. I guess like I don't know what the proper word is, but I guess just cutting off from like the original story.
Yeah.
We wanted it so all of it would be relevant to the current storyline that Old School has, because obviously RS3 is on a whole different path than what Old School is. Old School still has like the original 2007 quests, and we've moved on like slightly from that, but not too much.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool that you implement lore. For some reason, I'm nerdy enough to care about lore, but at the same time, I hate like dialogue and like going through quests and shit. As much as I
Yeah,
kind of,
that's what I think RS3 having voice acting makes it more enjoyable.
that's pretty cool.
I
So
think voice acting makes a huge difference on like actually caring about the lore.
yeah, I love it when there's like movie franchises and stuff, like just like things where like the lore makes a lot of sense and it's like a dark lore. I love dark lore. I don't like this kind of like fantasy. Everything's kind of like happy. I kind of like
Hmm.
the dark parts of it, and that's what I
Yeah,
also.
RuneScape 3 does a great job at that, by the way. They have really interesting quests, their trailers. I don't know if you've ever seen, I believe there is a YouTube video that the RuneScape channel released a couple years ago, just explaining like where Saradomin, Guthix, and like Samrak actually came from and why Gillinor became like a thing. That's a really interesting video,
That's
I
interesting.
think.
Yeah, that would be something I'd be interested in. That's cool. I have completely blocked myself off from even attempting to play RS3, but that is interesting that they have cool lore and voice acting especially is pretty big.
Yeah, and that was like a thing we cared about with that project, was making sure that everything we did was still relevant to like the lore that and the path that old school RuneScape is going,
Yeah.
so that we're not cutting ahead. Because RuneScape has different ages, right? There's like the third age, the fourth age, the fifth age, the sixth age, and whatnot. So we had to make sure that we were actually maintaining the right like timeline when we were doing this.
That's awesome. Okay. Luca asks, how many Kit Kat bars and Red Bulls do you think you could have in one sitting?
Hmm. I think the most unhealthy day I ever had in terms of energy drinks was I drank 4 liters of energy drinks.
Jesus Christ,
That was
dude.
yeah, that was 8 monsters in one day. And after that, I think after my eighth one, I could literally feel my heart like beating at it like
Dude,
not acceptable rate. And I was just like, yeah, okay, I need to need to get a glass of water or something, and then you can go to bed and not do that again. But currently, I'm trying to cut off energy drinks into my life entirely and just go on to
really?
coffee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm trying to move on to coffee. I feel like it's a very unhealthy habit.
I think 3 is the max amount of energy drinks, like 16-ounce energy drinks I've ever had, and that is, I can already feel my heart, like I can like feel it pulsating, just like oh my
Yeah, it's
god.
like a tolerance thing you build up, though. Like the more you drink, the less of an effect they have. So you
Yeah,
drink more and more, and yeah, I don't know.
Jesus
Overall, it's
though,
not a
that's
good addiction. The Kit Kat bars, I have no idea. I've tossed all my Kit Kats out. I used to have 21 boxes of 24 Kit Kats that I bought for. I don't even know how much it was. It was like what, a pound per box, which is
Jesus,
like unreal. Like it's
that's
like the
cheap.
regular, like a full. What is it? 24 Kit Kats in one box, and it's like the full size ones.
Damn, you can't
Yeah,
pass
I
that
don't know.
up.
They were just on sale, so I bought a shit ton of them. I ended up getting down to 7, and then I tossed them out.
That's dangerous. Yeah, that's dangerous to have that many. I'm a sugar addict.
Yeah, I don't know. At the end, I didn't even like them. But I gave a shit. I gave a lot away. Really didn't eat that many.
Okay, that's good.
I think
Yeah, no, yeah. Oh god, that sounds like I love my sugar and shit, but Jesus, like having like full boxes of candy bars is a literal like that is dangerous for me. I can't. Ugh. Because I would eat them. That's the thing, and I'd feel
Yeah,
sick.
exactly.
I'd feel just miserable.
He's like, oh, I'll have a snack, another Kit Kat.
Okay, listen. So I had a friend when I was growing up. He was pretty. His family was pretty rich, and so we'd go over there, and he had like his own movie theater in his house and stuff.
That's at a movie theater.
Well, I guess not a movie theater, but it was like a 4-story, like, or not story, but like 4 steps down with like
Yeah, bro, I
massage
hope you're
chairs.
still his friend. That sounds sick.
He unfortunately actually passed away due to cancer, so which is
Oh, I'm
really
so sorry.
really sad. It was tragic. It happened years ago, but yeah, no, he was awesome, and he yeah. Anyway, that was besides the point. But
I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
That.
Yeah,
Fuck
no,
me.
but he did pass away. It was very very sad. But
Yeah.
at his house, he had a bunch of mini fridges by the movie theater and a bunch of piles, and I mean like these cartons of candy, and it was all the best chocolate bars, you know, Kit Kats, Reese's, Butterfingers, like everything. And we would have sleepovers there, and I could not control myself. And so no, like I like physically, I just couldn't control myself. I would literally go there and say, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna eat any candy, or I'll just have 2, and I'll be good. And I'll have like 3 sodas max, because he just had unlimited mini fridges full of like the best sodas. And I just realized after a few sleepovers there, I actually have an addiction, and I cannot control myself, because when it's sitting in front of you and you're playing Call of Duty on this huge screen in the theater room, like you have to keep eating them. You just can't stop. And so that kind of sounds really dangerous.
It's like a pastime. You just sat there eating them.
You just have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally get that. I'm kind of the same way. So like, my dad used to be a truck driver,
Yeah.
and so we go to this store that sells everything in bulk. I'm not sure what the actual word for that is, but like it just sells everything in bulk. So like I'll buy like 48 cans of like Pepsi, for example,
Yeah.
in one go. And I noticed when I moved out, it was like now that I can just buy whatever I want and like I get to choose what I put in my fridge. I just bought like I would buy like 24 energy drinks, and I'd go from like, you know, when you're at like your parents or whatever, you'll drink like 1 a day. I would just drink like 5 a day, and it would just be like a regular day. It's just like, yeah, I'll have another one. Why not? Why would I have a glass of water? I have this many in the fridge.
I've always been a huge fan of water, so I'm always hydrating, but I do start to kind of get that addiction if I like start getting into energy drinks, then all of a sudden it's 1 a day, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I can drink 2 a day. I can drink 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and then I try not to ever get it to the point where it's 3 a day. If it ever hits 3 a day, then I have to like completely go off of it completely. But
Yeah, I have like a friend who's a personal trainer. His name's Lofi, who like I don't know. I guess he like kind of just changed my lifestyle a little bit. Nowadays, I start my morning by like downing a liter of water, so I'm hydrated, and
That's
then I do the
good.
same with like during before I go to bed. I always drink like a massive bottle of water as well,
that's good.
because like waking up with dry mouth and shit, it's just not a pleasant experience.
That's horrible. Yeah, eating really late at night as well. Just like if I eat something super salty at night, oh my god, the whole night I'm just
Yeah.
so fucking thirsty and just dry mouth, and my throat gets dry. Yeah, I do try to get you know, I'm not the most healthy person, but I hydrate a lot, and I also at least try to take some walks and stuff like that, and do a little bit of calisthenics here and there, just keeping
Yeah, it can be
somewhat
hard
in
to
shape.
remember that shit, especially when you have like streaming and content creation as your job, but you're just sitting down non-stop.
Oh, it's so easy to not do anything. Just sit on your ass all day and then sleep.
Yep.
It's so
Literally.
fucking easy to do that. And especially when you actually are kind of competing in a way, or like you're really addicted to a new piece of content that comes out and you're trying to milk it for all it's worth.
Yeah.
Like the last thing you want to do is just waste time. Like, oh, let me just go waste an hour going outside. Like, what the fuck? Like,
And that could be like, see, the thing is with streaming as well, like you're so like you become so obsessed with like numbers that like everything is either a potential loss of viewers, money.
yep.
I just the numbers just constantly in your face really takes away a lot of the enjoyment that you could potentially have if you were just doing it as like a hobby as opposed to a job.
Yep. I completely agree. It really does get I kind of want to actually kind of switch gears and kind of talk about streaming. How long have you been streaming for?
I started. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to say this, but I started streaming private servers in 2013 on Hitbox, or like 2014, and I moved on to Twitch in, I think, early 2017 is when I began with Twitch. So I didn't really take. I don't know. I always had a good viewership on Twitch. Like even right when I started, I think I still had like a 30 viewer average. And I think the point where I started to take it seriously was right after the Jagex 1v1, after that Bodhi host I was talking about. Actually, wait, we didn't even have that on the podcast. But yeah,
No, you can talk
I
about
ended
it.
up,
Yeah.
yeah, I ended up beating Bodhi in a 1v1 tournament, which was the European qualifiers. I didn't actually go on to win the entire tournament, but I won the European qualifiers, which didn't have a prize, unfortunately. So I won nothing except, I guess, a bragging right and a lot of Twitch followers.
Yeah, some
But
exposure.
Bodhi hosted me with 16k viewers, and immediately my stream crashed. But I managed to get it back up again, and I sat at like a couple thousand viewers. I believe it was like 4k throughout the rest of the stream, and I went on to win the European qualifiers at least. So I got a massive boost from that, and then DMM rolled around, and I started hanging out with Elliot, or Skidler, as most people know him, and he ended up like just streaming a lot of DMM, and I was on his streams. Decent amount seemed to like me. Some people didn't like me, but I became friends with Elliot, and he gave me like shout outs and whatnot, and just like hosted me, started telling people to go to my stream, and that gave me a massive boost. That I I got to a point where I was like, maybe I should take this seriously, and ever since then, it's just been like my actual job.
That's awesome. So I also want to talk, because I've never actually asked anybody that is in Method. How is being in Method? Because now you got recruited to a, I guess, what is it considered, a gaming organization or a streaming organization?
Yeah, a gaming organization, I believe.
So can you tell just a little? I don't know what your non-disclosure agreement is, but like what can you say, I guess, about your journey with Method? Like, have you enjoyed it?
I definitely enjoy being a Method. I have a very close relationship with my manager as well, Mildly Entertaining. I was friends with him before he became my manager. So overall, I think I've had a very good experience in Method. I think right now it's at a bit of a standstill with like what's going on. But like Method definitely gave me a lot of opportunities that I didn't have before. They offered me like a casting experience where I could cast one of the Method Mayhems. And I ended up enjoying it so much. And like, I guess they thought I was good enough at casting. So I took nearly every region, including the final, and casted it. And I don't know, I just got some experience into something that I've never done before. And initially, I was scared to shit to actually like
Yeah, I imagine.
sit there and cast. I remember at one point during the final, I think we had like 30,000 viewers or something.
Oh
And I was
God.
like, at that point, I was so used to it that I wasn't nervous at all.
That's
But
awesome.
just looking back at it, like having 30,000 people actually sit there and like hear me and see me is like almost insane to just think about, because like you can't really grasp how many people that actually is.
Yeah.
Like I'd get nervous if I stood in front of 20 people reading a paper IRL, but when you're on stream, you can't really envision that those people, like it's just like
Yep.
it's such a surreal number to you that it's just, I don't know. But
And
thinking back on it, it's absolutely crazy.
yeah, and what's even crazier is like you are doing it for Method, so like the stakes are higher, you know? Like
Mhm.
it's almost like you're representing something else, so it's like you have to like always be
Yeah.
kind of aware of what's happening. And so yeah, I can imagine that's pretty damn stressful. Like with me, with a Sae Bae Cast, I love doing this. It's just one v one basically. No, 1v1. One just a one-on-one conversation and
Yeah.
debating each other. No, but like I got fucking nervous starting this shit because you want to sound smart and you want to ask the right questions and stuff, but you're gonna fuck up a lot. I don't know if you ever were just. I'm very self-critical with myself. Like,
Oh yes,
so
definitely.
I can imagine being in front of 30,000 people. You say one thing that's just like, oh, that was weird. Like, why did I say that? And then the rest of it, I start like getting self-conscious and stuff.
Yeah, I think one thing that I guess the only negative thing I had to say about the casting experience was I think looking at the chat sometimes just I
Mm,
don't know. You say like something that the chat caught on to, I guess, and you didn't really find like I don't know, like a joke
yeah.
falling flat or something like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
People on the internet are very
They're
aggressive.
they're ruthless, dude.
Yeah, like especially in like when it's just a Twitch chat, they don't really like they don't care that I see it exactly when they type it. And I mean, actually, I'm not sure if it's that they don't care or if it's just like they're not aware of the implications that words can sometimes actually hurt people. But
Yeah.
uh, it's definitely rough, for sure it is. I remember at the start of every tournament that Method did, I was casting, I was nervous to shit. But like after like 30 minutes or an hour or so, you really get into the flow of things, and ultimately, like you get used to it over time.
Yeah. I feel like
I
looking
think
at
the starting period's always going to be very nerve-wracking, though.
100%. And I feel like I don't know. Like, what do you think about looking at chat during those? Do you feel like it's better to not look at it, or do you almost feel like it's essential to look at it?
So I shifted between not looking at it and looking at it. I think looking at it is better overall because you can comment on things that people
Yeah,
are
that's true.
like. You can get like conversation topics and whatnot off of the chat. So looking at it is definitely better if you can handle it. But obviously, sometimes just taking a break from it definitely doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
There was a couple times where I just X'd out of it and I was just like, okay, I need like a little bit of a break from it. And I'll look back later. And I did, and I think it worked out fine.
That's good.
I'm honestly very happy with the fact that Method actually took me on to do that because out of all the streamers in Method, I'm the smallest one. I was very surprised I got signed like anyway. I think I had like 6K something followers when they first signed me, which was just like surreal because getting approached by an org of that size, regardless of like the fact that I guess I had like potential to grow or whatever. It just seemed like why would you hire me when you got like sick nerd and whatnot
Yeah.
on there? So I
Nah.
don't know. I'm very happy with Method. I think they bring a decent I don't know. They're just very like a good org for a streamer to be in.
And to give you opportunities and stuff.
Yeah, I think the only thing I wish that we were able to do more was like more, I guess, collaborations with all the Method streamers where we do something together. But that's very hard to organize. I think it's also hard for like Method to be like, yo, can you come on our channel and do something rather than you stream yourself?
Yeah.
It's quite a tough argument to run, I think.
Yeah. I think I honestly, I got to give you credit. I think you're a very well-spoken guy. So you being the caster, I think is a great decision by them because I don't
Yeah,
know.
the only problem I think I had was like obviously on my own stream I still say like a lot of swear words.
Yeah,
Like I
that would be
curse.
my issue if I ever did
Yeah,
anything
I
like that.
curse a decent amount. So there was like a couple times where there was like, "Yo, you need to like stop like saying that much." And I was just like, "Okay, yeah, I'll try to keep that in mind and tone it down a bit." But
Yeah, it's
I think it
tough.
worked out fine.
I almost have to have like a picture of my family or something right next to me because if I ever so like I used to go home, I used to go to school out of state and then go home and work.
Hmm.
And when I was at school out of state, I'd swear all the time. And then as soon as I got home, I never swore because my parents didn't like it. And it's almost as if like if I needed to not swear, I just put a picture of my family or something there to be like, all right, like I'm in front of my family, I can't swear, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely did not have that growing up. My
Oh yeah,
parents are.
just
I
swear all the
mean, they
time.
don't allow some stuff, obviously, but like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
usual like F word and like just saying fuck stuff like that. It's not that
Yeah. Oh,
big of a
if
deal.
I said fuck as a kid at my home, I'd get in so much trouble. I'd get grounded for 6 weeks. Like, it
Oh,
was bad. Like,
Jesus.
swearing was bad when I grew
I don't
up.
know. I grew up with five brothers and two sisters, and I was like the youngest one. So I just
Okay,
kind
yeah, they
of.
probably eased off as well. I'm assuming maybe your parents were always okay with it. Like, I just grew up like
Yeah,
pretty
I can't
strict with
imagine
the
they were
swearing.
at the very beginning, but I feel like me being the youngest, eventually
Yeah,
they were just
get
like, yeah,
away
we
with
don't care
anything.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't care. Like we've had it too much already. Just do whatever you want. Even stuff like candy and like soda. Like you know how like parents are very strict with what their children eat. My
Yep.
parents always kind of had a mentality of like, if you keep it there at all times, it's not really that interesting. And I think that worked out very well for our family. Obviously, it's not like a guarantee that it's going to work or anything. But with my family, it was like, I don't know, we always had candy available. We always had like soda in the fridge. But when it's always there, it's not that interesting. You're not going to have it
Yep.
all the time.
We never. My mom would choose to do that, but she was too inconsistent with it. So she would be like, "Oh, this seems really cool to have a jar of candy and out in the living
Hmm.
room." But no, she would do it too inconsistently to the point where it's like whenever us as kids, because I have three siblings, whenever we'd see it, we would just eat it all, like in
Yeah.
that hour basically.
Yeah. And I
And
think that's like the
if it had
problem
just
that
been the
it
case all
creates.
the time, there's always candy out there, we probably would have just gotten used to it. But yeah, just when you're too inconsistent and then you stop doing it and you start it up again, it's like, no, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
It's
I don't know.
interesting.
I think it definitely can create a problem, but like it differs from person to person, right? You never
For
really
sure.
know. For example, like my sister has kids and she decides to like not have it there all the time. But
Yeah,
then I also know that like the second she puts it, like
it's
gives them
gone.
anything, they start shoving it down, like it's gone in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's how we grew up. So we were all my siblings are very competitive with each other. It's just in weird
Hmm.
ways. And so my mom, there's this truck that drives by in America, certain parts of America. It's called the Schwann's Man or the Schwann's truck, and it would come by and it would just sell frozen foods. Basically, it's like an ice cream truck, except it sold actual food.
Huh.
Very interesting. Now that I think back, I'm like, I haven't seen a Schwann's truck in years, but like,
Yeah, that's a very interesting concept. I've never heard of that
yeah,
before.
it's really interesting. But she used to buy these things called Bright Start Minis, and they're like these little like basically ham, egg, and cheese, uh, kind of I don't know, like little
Like sandwiches? I don't know. Like
uh, what are they called? They're like little pizzas, basically, like little pizzas, mini pizzas, I
this
guess.
sounds like a very American thing.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
gonna
They're.
lie.
But the thing is like our breakfasts were like cold cereal or eggs and toast, and so when you have these like greasy pizza like things, they're
Hmm.
amazing for breakfast when you're a kid, and so we were so competitive with it because my mom would only buy a few of them that for the next like 2 days we'd wake up at like 3 a.m. before school just so we could eat one, and then eat another one like right before school. Like, dude, if we ever got anything good, we would just fucking throw it away. Like, we would be so competitive about it and it would just ruin it.
Yeah, I remember I think it's more common to have parents that just don't have it there as often
Yeah,
versus like the approach my mum had to it at least.
yeah. Okay, there was a question by a streamer. Who was it again?
Scuffy?
Scuffy. He asked, at what point, basically, did streaming become, in your eyes at least, streaming become something that was like a viable option for you, like something where like you all of a sudden
I
I
think
can't word it. You can word it.
yeah, like a thing where I don't know, like at what point did I think it was worth pursuing?
Yeah, there we
Which
go.
we kind of went over earlier. It's like after the Bodhi host and after Elliot kind of shouted
Oh
me
yeah,
out. I
true.
think that was definitely the point where I thought like this could become something. I remember, just like I don't know, my family's always been very athletic. All my brothers have been either pro swimmers or like football players. Both my sisters, I think, got a one of them got a silver medal in. I don't even know what it's called. Like, when you do like fancy jumps into swimming pools. I don't even know what that's called in English.
Oh, high dive? Is it like high dive?
Yeah, yeah. I guess high dives. They went on and got like a silver star in, yeah, I think it was Sweden, just like being the second best in the country or whatever.
Wow. God damn.
So my family's been quite athletic, and then when you have me who took like gaming as like a serious thing, it was a very, very hard thing for my parents to understand.
Hmm.
I think now it's better. They definitely are supportive of me,
That's
but
awesome.
I don't think they'll ever understand fully what I do.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they are very supportive, and I can't complain. But it's just I took a very different route than what my siblings have, so to them it was a bit of a shock.
And are your parents athletic as well? Or were they?
Um, Honestly, I don't know. I don't think my mum or my dad was. I think they've just kind of because my mum and my dad are very different. But I don't, as far as I know, I don't think either of them have been very athletic. It's not really something that they try to push on to us. It was just like, I guess my family had an interest for it.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, my parents are as well. Like when I had a very interesting starting to streaming where I just started streaming and I was averaging like 3 viewers and shit. And like the last thing you want to do is like tell people like how it's going. You're like, it's going good, trying to grow. But
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
it's
every single time I go to my parents' place, they're just like, "Oh, how's streaming going?" And I'm like,
yeah,
"Well, you see, I got about 150 average now compared to last month."
yeah. No,
I
it
don't
is.
know.
It's still weird talking to my parents about it. My dad shows a lot more interest than my mom. My mom just. The other thing is I swear so much on stream, and they both hate swearing. They hate that I swear. They hate that I'm such a potty
Yeah,
mouth.
I can't imagine that being very easy.
So like they can't like they'll watch a clip of mine and I say like 5 F words in one clip and they're like, all right, yeah, I'm not watching this. Like they don't even. My dad's very supportive, but
Yeah.
and he primes me every month, but
Oh, that's so cute.
my dad was basically was my lurker during when I began streaming. And I was like, you know what, Dad? Even though you don't understand what the hell I'm doing, and you just want me to go back to school and like get a normal job and shit, like I appreciate it because, God, if
It does mean a lot. It truly
it really
does.
does.
I think my mum is definitely the one that's like most interested. But like, I remember she asked me to like put on one of my streams and like show what I do, and I was just like,
No
"Eh."
thanks.
Like half my conversation topics are either cocks or wilderness. So I was just like, yeah, I don't know about that one. I think we'll
Yeah.
pass.
I was telling my dad the other day, I finally got my Inquisitor's mace, and I've been looking for it for like 11 months. And I was telling my dad about the whole situation because he didn't understand. I was trying to get something. He would just pop into my stream here and there. He didn't understand the magnitude of this grind I was doing. And when I finally told him, I was like, yeah, there's a clip of it where I was lost for words. I couldn't even speak initially. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll watch it. And I'm like, oh shit, like I forgot about the last half of the clip where I just say, oh my fucking god, oh my fucking god, like, oh god, it's not gonna be good. But
Yeah, I can't. Nah, that stuff. I can't imagine
yeah,
that.
it's weird, but at least they understand. It's something now, I can do it
Mm.
full time, and so they are a lot more. It's just weird. I guess it's. I don't like to just call my parents boomers. I think it's kind of disrespectful, but like boomers in general just don't understand. Or it's like any. It's basically like they'll only. This is a very generalization, but like, it's usually like they only care about how much money you're making, or they only care about like if you can support like a family or something or something.
Yeah,
Like that's all they care about. It's
that's
like,
a big part of it. I always get the question of like how much I'm making, and that I don't know. I don't, even though I am doing good, it's like I don't really like talking about it because, I mean, coming from a family that like genuinely hasn't had that much money, um, it's like even though I am making like a decent amount, I'm not rich by any means.
yeah,
I make pretty much like I live like paycheck to paycheck kind of thing.
yeah,
Um, I still feel like it's just not something that I want to talk about with my parents, really.
yeah. And it is weird. Just talking about money in general, I've always felt it's weird because like with my parents at least. Because like
Yeah,
we,
I mean, I can understand the importance of it in like a working aspect. I feel
yeah,
like people on Twitch definitely don't talk about their earnings enough, but I think that also comes with the fact that I don't think you're allowed to on stream.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but I think, in my personal opinion, I think it's healthy to talk about like people. So talking with people that do the same thing as you, obviously streaming's very different, but like, let's say like you are signing to an org or something, talking to your I don't even know what the word would be, but like I guess the other people that are getting signed, like what type of deals they have, so that you can just make sure that you're also getting
Yep.
like what you're worth.
Yeah, that's healthy. My brother talks about that like at his work, his normal job. It's actually good to talk about your wages with other coworkers.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the only way you're going to be able to tell if you're being treated differently.
Yep.
And I mean, if you're earning more money than them, then they like whoever you're talking to ultimately should probably talk to the person that's employing them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it is weird to talk about it. And the other weird thing is like there's this new I don't know when it happened. It must have been a couple years ago when all the streamers started showing their sub counts on the
Hmm.
stream. I don't know when that
Yeah,
happened because nobody ever used to do that, and then all of a sudden everyone does it. I do it.
I think I don't know. It's like the only way to like set a goal nowadays. I
Yeah,
think
it's
everyone has like different goals of subs and like I don't know. I feel like so the way I do Twitch isn't I don't necessarily try to like squeeze it for its money. I, I I know that like you can do different types of stuff to like earn extra revenue on Twitch. Sub baiting, right? Everyone knows what sub baiting is. And like fair play, if
yeah,
you do it, you do it.
yeah.
And if you feel like you need the money, go ahead, get the bag. But for me personally, I don't know. I kind of feel like if I earn enough to live, then and I still can save away some extra, what's the point of like asking for more?
It puts I don't know. There is a lot of stress and stuff to streaming, especially when like you don't know what your next paycheck's gonna be.
Hmm.
There's a lot of stress that's and I feel like the most important part if you're planning on doing streaming long term is like you have to like not go over the top. Like I don't know, you want to do something that's sustainable, I guess.
I think ultimately the only way to have a long-term career on Twitch is making sure that like the content that you provide and the personality that you have is good.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna spend too much time, um, because like I don't know, in a way, I guess subbaiting is kind of like asking for money. And I feel like if you spend too much time subbaiting, you're taking away a large portion of your content.
Yeah.
So some of it definitely doesn't hurt, but doing too much of it can hurt your like halt your what am I saying here? Hurt your long-term career.
I can I can totally see that. And I've seen both avenues cuz I have a history of sub baiting. I try not to do it much, but once you get a taste of what sub baiting, once you lose that what is it? It's almost like it's a pride thing for me. When I first started streaming, I never ever would ask for anything, or I wouldn't even
Mhm.
suggest baiting or doing any form of that. But then once you like do it and you see how profitable it is, it's like, oh god, like am I going down this route? Like I really just want to stream RuneScape, but now it's becoming like this. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like subbaiting can almost turn into like what's it called? It can become addictive because it's never nice to see the numbers plummet.
Yeah,
So let's say you do it 1 month and then the next month you don't. You're obviously going to see a massive difference in your revenue and like the amount of subs you have. Even if you don't care about the money, the numbers going down always affects you. It's the same thing with viewership. If
yeah,
you notice that like one form of content is bringing in a lot less viewership, regardless if you think that's more fun, you will most likely still go to the thing that's getting more viewers
yeah.
because maintaining relevant on Twitch is it's very difficult and it's a lot about luck and making sure that you gather enough of a followership so when you do want to do what you think is fun. I, I feel like I'm kind of not wording this properly, is it?
I can understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah, like I don't know, just doing what gets views in the beginning so that in the future you can just do what you think is fun.
Yeah. It
Making
is.
sure that you're not just doing something where you get like 10 viewers as opposed to doing something where you get 100 when maybe in the future you could just do what you think is fun and eventually people will just like you for who you
Yeah.
are.
It is interesting because going back to your point of like, if it doesn't even matter where you're at in viewership or in sub count, it's like
Hmm.
your mental is completely shifted whenever it drops, whenever it raises. So even if you're at like a lower point than normal, but then it raises, you have a good feeling. Same thing with viewers.
Yeah.
It's like if you average, let's just say 200 viewers, but you're only at 100, but then all of a sudden your viewer, like real time, your viewership's going up. You're like, oh, this is a good thing. But even if you were at 300 viewers, then you're declining. You're like, oh, what am I doing wrong? Even though you're at a way higher of an average.
Yeah, it's such a tough one
It's
because
so weird.
it's like the same addiction that you would have to social media, where like getting
Yeah,
100 likes on a picture is just like, oh, bling, bling. It's just like, oh, I'm so happy I'm getting
I
likes.
know. Oh my god, we are humans are sort of pathetic in a way. Like,
Yeah, I don't think our brains are ready for it, honestly. But I just realized how long we've been going for. Should we go back to some of the
we
questions and just
definitely
like
should. Let's do it.
uh
If you
let's
have,
just
if
pick
you have
out.
one, go for it.
Yeah, I was thinking about just picking out one here.
Yeah, go.
Do you want to read it? I just linked it.
Yeah. Let me. Okay. Let me just find it on my end. There we go. Adam asks, do you feel it's important to the future of PvP for certain individuals and clans to dial back out of game tactics and harassment, especially with how bad things have gotten? Also, what do you think could be done about ragging other than rule enforcement?
Yeah, so this was like a question that I read, and I was like, that's a really good one. Um, and I think for a person that led a single team for so long, one of the main reasons I quit it was because like I almost felt like my morals were like deteriorating by each year that went by.
Mm,
Because like in the way current like both multi-clanning and single clanning kind of work the same way, where if you want to remain competitive, you have to stoop down to everyone else's level, even if you want to be like morally better than them. In order to remain competitive with people that are doing very like morally wrong things, ultimately they have an advantage if they can do that to you without you doing anything back.
yeah.
And I think that's one of the main reasons why clanning has died as well. It's because there's so much out of game stuff that happens these days where like people will dox, let's say, another clan's member in order to threaten them, blackmail them, and convince them to like spy on that team. Even if they don't want to, they'll feel forced to because the other team has this leverage on them. And it's a thing that has plagued the clanning community for a long time now. I think one of the major, like, one of the times I feel like it was shifting from kind of like, I guess, a decent stance morally to like just completely shit was, I think it began in like 2016, 2015. And this was when I was fairly new as well. So I think if the clanning community is ever going to grow, it needs to kind of stop with it. But I just don't see that happening because what's the reason for them to stop? Since
Yeah.
Jagex don't really take any action, it's also very hard for Jagex to take any action in the first place because how are they going to enforce or like prove that this is this
Happening.
individual doing
Yeah.
it? And are you then going to punish an entire group of people for one person's doing because you don't know if everyone else knew about it?
Yep.
And it's a problem that we've seen with DDoSing, doxing, ragging, just to name a few, honestly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think Jagex does need to take a harder stance on it, and that's the only way it's going to get solved. But ultimately, the clan scene is dying out, so maybe the problem will fix itself when the bigger clans kind of get bored and just move on to other things.
Yeah.
But I do think everyone mimics the people at the top, so even the newer clans kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's something I just never really had to deal with. I kind of started to experience it with my time at Revs of like how toxic and how degenerate players can really become
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to PvP. You know, and it happens with any, like there's PVMers, there's skillers as well that become very degenerate and throw all their morals out the window and just kind of like become just a shitty person just in general.
Yeah,
And
for sure. And
yeah,
what's it called? I think just overall people don't really they don't see the consequence of what they could be doing to another person when it's just like you're looking at a RuneScape character.
yep. Yep. No, for sure. It's just it's easier to see in PvP because it's just directly somebody can directly take advantage of you. And take advantage, I say that and just as in just they can have more numbers than you and just keep killing you and basically rag you. They could just spend their entire day ragging you. They could if they wanted to. Is it worth their time? No, it's pretty pathetic, but like that's the difference between other forums where you can just ignore put them on your ignore list, done dealing with it. And
Yeah,
clanning in general, I think as well, like you kind of get information on people that again can be you can get blackmailed for stuff like that. So
yeah, the way clans operate is it's interesting because I feel like most players obviously don't know about it unless you're in the community. How would you know how clans operate and what they do and whatnot? It's almost scary, honestly. But um, moving on to like the last part of that question, I think what was it? What do you think could be done about ragging other than rule enforcement?
yeah,
I don't even know if that's a thing that could have a solution because how would you stop it other than Jagex actually taking the time to review people that are getting ragged?
yeah. I was kind of curious on the new bow that came out. Is that thing like the new crystal bow rag that people use? Like I honestly that's my
I
initial
don't think
impression
so.
was
No, I think you'd be risking too much to be able to rag with it, and like with any hard-hitting weapon, if you're going to be having a weapon that hits hard and big hits consistently, it's very easy for someone to just anti-rush you. I know, I say anti-rush, but I guess anti is the proper word. Where like if you can hit me a 50, where I think the bow max is like a 46, I could still have a potential to kill you. And then if you have to risk like 60 mil to use it because you need a
that's true.
crystal armor, I
Yeah, I
think
guess I
ragging.
guess I mean like without the crystal armor, just like because I remember people would crystal bow rag, just have a crystal bow. So I always thought, oh, this new bow that takes zero ammo is going to be the new ragging thing. I not like I've seen that recently where people just
It
crystal bow
definitely
people, but
could be, but
it hasn't like you haven't really seen it much. I don't feel like people really do
no, I
that much.
haven't
That
seen
used to
it
be a
yet.
huge thing a few years back.
Yeah, one item ragging really isn't that big of a thing anymore. What people usually do now is like they'll gear up in like a Torag's helm with a dragon crossbow and D-hide and like a crystal shield and
Yeah,
have a double maul on them. Um, and that's like what most draggers use now, I feel like.
interesting. Yeah, yeah. Crystal bow isn't as effective when you just kill them really easily if they're not wearing anything else besides just one iteming. Okay. Let's move on to a different question. Okay, so this is from Bonerator. He says, "Do you think the wilderness is integral to the future of PvP and OSRS, or would it grow more with seasonal game modes, DMM, etc., and mini games, LMS, Bounty Hunter, etc.?"
What was the first part of the question? If the
If
wilderness
if the
and isn't
wilderness itself is integral to the future of PvP, like stuff being in the wilderness, or do you think it could be more focused around mini games and I guess tournaments?
That's an interesting one because that obviously depends if RuneScape is going to become like an esports oriented game compared to, let's say, like where we're at now is like RuneScape isn't really competitive. It's slightly competitive, but like it's not like the game is too RNG based to actually be, I guess, competitive in the sense that the better player is going to win every time. And with without the wilderness, I feel like you're removing a massive part of what RuneScape is, which is just being able to kill people, even if they're a lot worse than you. And if you're adding mini games with like skill-based matchmaking systems and whatnot, obviously that could be the future of the game. But I feel like what people really like about RuneScape PvP is the fact that you never know what's going to happen, and just the way it currently is, I feel like is keeping it is very integral to actually maintaining its activity.
Yeah, I think
mini games definitely have a place where they could be competitive and have like an esport made out of it, such as DMM, but it can't replace what we have.
100%. I think Wilderness is very unique, and it is a cool thing to have in the game. It's like very few games have a sort of Wilderness system like we do, where it's just everything goes, you know?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask this earlier, it just never came up, but again, I'm not a PvPer. I don't know how this would affect the game, but so freeze timers. You know how like the game, if you get frozen, as long as it hits, it is a guaranteed amount, a set time that it freezes you for. Do you think that freezing could work where the freeze duration is now RNG? So it could be between 5 and whatever it is, 20 seconds.
I think it would make an already very inconsistent game even more inconsistent. Like, the game is already so RNG based that if you made freeze, like the actual freeze time RNG as well, at that point you're removing a lot of skill, because like how would you know? At that point it's just a guessing game.
That's true. What if it was like dependent on like the XP drop you got? And this is not the only suggestion, and this is not, I'm not advocating for this at all. I'm just trying to get your ideas on it. The other thing is, what if there was a melt spell? I know we have flowers where you can just plant seeds and you can kind of move out of a freeze. But what if there was a spell that kind of counters being frozen? Now, who knows what this would cost? Like, who knows what, like, and if it would have a 100% success rate or not. But what if there was like a way to get out of a freeze?
I think with that, it would just make everything too easy to escape. Like, how would a person with, let's say, 10 brews die if they could just continuously like cast a melt spell and then continue running towards level 1, or if they're in PvP, continue running towards a bank?
I guess part of it. So isn't there like I think with singles plus you can just get last hit, run under a person, and then you're pretty much good, or run behind a thing. What if there was? Yeah, I don't know. Like,
as long as you run behind a corner or like DD them, and they like, so even if they do have a flower, you can just predict. Like, you can, if you react,
you
quick
can
enough,
anticipate a one tick, just walk under them
and
again.
just move with them until you log out.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, what do you think about this whole thing? Just like with either timers being shortened or even freezes being more consistent, but having a lower timer on it. Just, I don't know. Because sometimes I think the freezing aspect is just like a bit too much. I know it's old school and everything, but God, the amount of seconds you're just frozen there, can't do anything. It's just kind of obnoxious. That's my own opinion. Who knows? I mean, it's old school. I'm not advocating for a change, I guess.
It's not something that I've ever thought about, so it's hard for me to give an opinion on it. Yeah, that's all.
That's true.
Yeah, not sure about that one.
Yeah, I've always thought it was strange that there was no real counter for getting frozen. Like, there kind of is, and there's always flowers and stuff, but I don't know. And I wonder if there would be a way to implement that so that, you know, running behind an obstacle or DDing could be prevented almost. I don't know. This is just food for thought.
I don't know. It's an interesting concept. I feel like I'd have to put like more thought into it before I could give an actual answer onto that one. So
I guess I just thought I'd bring it up because I've asked this before. Just, I don't know, things to think about.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of the person that, like, before answering something like that, I feel like I'd have to think about it and
think of pros and cons and stuff.
Yeah,
and potentially ask others as well, because that's the other thing. When I think of ideas, sometimes I'm not even thinking of the broader picture. Like, oh, this is very easy to understand. This is busted as hell because of this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess if you ever do kind of think about that, I would love to hear your opinions, because I don't really ask all that many people about that, and it's not
I
like
mean,
it's
I
that
think
important. But
currently I feel like that would be too overpowered.
yeah, and it would need some balance behind it, because
Yeah.
what would be the unfreeze thing? Like, would you have to have a super high magic bonuses to get the unfreeze? You know, like something like that, where it's like, oh, I gotta quickly equip my magic gear or something like that, and get a good chance at getting unfrozen or something like that. You know, who
I
knows?
think if it were to be implemented, it would have to have a very, very low success rate.
Yeah, yeah. And I've always wondered, like, oh, I wonder if like magic accuracy or something magic related could, if you were wearing Zarashins, your freezes wouldn't last as long as somebody that's in full ancestral, things like that. But again, this is just food for thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Um. Okay, I kind of want to. Okay, so Ian just gives a little shout out. Really nice to see you invite a PvP legend for this topic. Looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I found it kind of funny. He called me a legend when he's been around like way longer than I have. But
Uh, let's see. Manic asks comments on PvPers wanting the wilderness in PvP to be an insane source of GP. Back in the day, wilderness used to have next to no content or GP sources other than other players that wanted to be there to explore and fight others.
I've talked about that on stream, and my opinion on it, or like my take, is people think that because it has worked in the past, and doing something new scares people. It always will. So this update, there's no like, if you actually look at the statistics of the people that answer the poll, which I must say, in a way, the poll is flawed because obviously Jagex can pick and choose questions, so they can kind of influence what the updates are gonna be. With anything, if you are the person that's asking the questions, obviously you can dictate what the answers will kind of be.
Yep.
But I don't know. A lot of people will like say, "Oh yeah, the only way to revive the wilderness is by making the food chain, like recreating a food chain by adding insane moneymakers and whatnot." I don't think that's necessarily true. It's the only thing that's been tested, and that's why people go to it. It's the only thing that's been tested, and it's worked in the past, so people will cling on to it
Yeah.
and like never try anything else. Because why would you? Why put like why gamble
Resources and
something
effort,
when
yeah.
you can just try reusing stuff that has worked before?
That's true.
So I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with them. I see where they're coming from because if something's worked in the past, then yeah, fuck it, do it again. But at the same time, I feel like Jagex have the right to take a gamble on something if they want to, as long as there is like I've said before hundreds of times, as long as they revert the bad things, if it goes wrong, I don't have any problem with them testing different stuff.
Yeah. We'll just have to see when it comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
It's a gamble. Everyone knows that.
Okay. I828 says, or I ate too late. Oh, I see what it's a play on characters. I ate too late.
Yeah.
He says, what are your thoughts on Jagex making huge PvP changes without addressing client/script abuse?
See, I've kind of come to the conclusion that Jagex doesn't actually know how to detect it yet, and therefore it's not being addressed. Um, I, I don't know. The clienting has become such a huge problem in PvP because people clienting can beat me now and consistently add that. To the point where it's almost like a joke. It's like if a player like myself can't beat a person that clients, how is a noob meant to? I mean, I guess in one aspect, the game is very RNG based, so a person clienting doesn't necessarily have to kill you. But at the same time, it's very hard for me to kill a person that's clienting.
Yep.
Wait, hold up. I got a delivery, so give me 1 sec.
Go for it.
So I think the main problem with clients is the fact that Jagex, from what we can tell, they just aren't able to detect them. I mean, people have literally cliented, uploaded videos of it with the RSNs, and I don't know, Jagex just don't really seem to pay a lot of attention to it, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone that client get banned for it
Yikes.
without like a streamer reporting it first, or like someone of, I guess, importance.
Yeah. Yeah. That is very off-putting, especially when you do like an I don't go PvP in the wilderness, but like just in LMS and you see somebody with a client, you're like, God damn, this just sucks.
Oh yeah, the LMS bots are scary good now.
Yeah, they're crazy.
It's ridiculous how good they have gone. I said it before, back when the LMS bots were like decent, but not really that good. I was like, one day these are going to be able to beat me, and I'm just not looking forward to that day.
Yeah, they're pretty insane. It's just off-putting because like, this like sucks. There's no real. I don't know. Like, you know what would be cool is if, and I know who knows how many employees are like working for Jagex on like the anti-cheat team and stuff, but it would be really nice if there was a way where it's like it was almost like a just a really easy way to report somebody that was clearly using clients or something, just like a one press report or something like that, where it's like, okay, you're an LMS, somebody's botting, you click it, and then there's actually people that are reviewing those. So hopefully, and if you abuse that button, if you're like abusing it, then your reports don't ever go through again. Like a lot of games have that, where it's like,
I have to say as well, a lot of games have feedback on the reports.
Yeah.
RuneScape just doesn't. Like, I can report someone and I just never know if they're going to get banned.
Yeah, it's
like,
really sad. There really should be a lot more resources put into cheating, and especially regarding PvP cheating and anything like that. Like there should be these like
1000%.
Yeah, it's bad. So we'll see. All right, Chaz asks, favorite RS streamer, least favorite part of making a new account build. Do you think, okay, so let's I guess let's just cover the one, but I'll go through these first. Do you think the removal of risk outside wilderness over time has contributed to the divide between non-PKers and PKers? Do you think it's lazy to remove BH due to abuse rather than to moderate the game? And then is there a style of PKing you really enjoy that you feel isn't entertaining to watch, and vice versa? So we'll start with the first one. Favorite RS streamer?
I'd go with Skidler. I think he's been the most influential to me. Definitely a person that I look up to as well, and I value as a very good friend. And I don't know, just overall, I think I watch him the most out of any streamer. I don't watch streamers that much in general, ironically. Like, being a streamer, before I actually started being a streamer myself, I never watched anything on Twitch. Now I watch it occasionally, but I'm more of a YouTube type guy where I just see compilations of stuff rather than waiting for it to happen on a stream.
Yeah. Okay. Shout out Skidler. Did you know, funny story, I had been following Skidler for years, and then I unfollowed him because for some reason I was in a stream. I don't know what he said or what he did that just pissed me off.
Mm-hmm.
But I must have been in a bad mood as well. But I just unfollowed him. This is years ago. I was like, yeah, I'm not watching this guy anymore. And then later, I told my stream, I was like, yeah, there's one person that I would like to refollow, but it's so awkward to like refollow somebody. And
yeah, I'm awful with like actually pressing the follow button to begin with.
Yeah. No, so I had to I just told him, I was like, yeah, Skiller's one of those people. It's like I unfollow, but now I wanna refollow him because like I kind of like the guy now. Like I've seen clips, like it kind of sucks because like I had a bad moment, and but then my stream literally went into his stream. Like some viewers went in there and were telling him about it, how like I unfollowed him and shit, and then I eventually came in there and followed. And I was like, oh, kind of awkward. But it was nothing. I don't know. I guess it was just the year. This is years ago before I was even a streamer myself, and I had unfollowed, and then. And what's interesting,
situations like that are just awkward in general.
Oh yeah, so awkward. I've had to deal with it a lot.
Even if you've been talking to someone streaming, like you realize you're not followed and then follow them, it's just like.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I firsthand understand how awkward it is, and so when other people do it to me, I'm like, you know what, dude, I completely understand where you are right now. So like, don't even feel bad at all. So that was Kind of interesting. Okay, least favorite part of making a new account build.
Questing, 100%. There's just nothing that's like.
That's the
close
least
to as
favorite,
boring.
correct?
Oh yeah, least
Okay.
favorite.
No,
Like questing is just so boring. Like when you've done bee gloves like 10 times, you don't look forward to it at all.
So have you used
nothing of it's fun.
but have you used the quest helper? I have not used it yet, but I heard it's
No,
like
I've not used it either yet. I tested it like early, but then it wasn't that good.
interesting.
But like apparently that thing's sick now.
All right, favorite. What's your favorite part of making a new account? Dude, okay, I sorry, I gotta interrupt. I'm thieving elves this whole time. I've gotten the enhanced crystal teleport seed 5 different times, so I have 10 seeds, which is, I think I'm literally 5 times over rate. I'm absolutely spooning this whole cast. So I think I've gotten 10. Like, Jesus Christ, I'm rich. All right, keep going. Did you know these things are like, I think they're worth 5 mil each, but it's saying only.
It probably is because I think those a lot of people are buying them to recolor their bows now, so they're probably skyrocketing in price.
I think I've made like 50 mil or something, or no, maybe not 50 mil, maybe like 30 mil, or I don't. How much are they? I think they actually are. Maybe this is accurate. 3.6 mil. I made 36 mil then just in the last 2 hours, and I'm like barely being efficient.
Yeah, okay, that's genuinely just spooning money.
Yeah.
Maybe PKing isn't the best money after all.
This so what I've heard is because of like, okay, so Fasani's is really good money, but also Gauntlet is crazy money now if you're good at it, and then thieving these elves is insane money. I think thieving elves is like 5 mil an hour right now.
What?
It's literally 5 mil an hour, I'm pretty sure, at 99 with like the spell and dodgy necklaces.
Wait, does it require any effort?
It is just right clicking. That's the most annoying thing. You just have to right click and click. I think it's legitimately 5 mil an hour on average, and I've probably been making like 15 mil an hour right now because I'm just lucky as fuck.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Anyway, continue. I had to make that because I just I was expecting to get 1 maybe crystal pickpocket. I've had 5, so like, yeah, insane.
Yeah, I just got a delivery as well, which was meant to be for my PS5 controller, but it's just not here, so.
Oh shit.
I guess I've been scammed.
Fuck.
All right, what question were we on?
We were on favorite part of making a new account.
Oh, ooh, I really enjoy doing Wildy Slayer.
Me too.
I don't do it as much nowadays, but my favorite part used to be just doing Wildy Slayer for MM2 on like the accounts I had back when you would get like emblems and stuff. It was quite consistent. Like it was decent money, and at the same time, I think there was more people, like more newbie people that just hunted people doing Wildy Slayer. So
yeah. All right. Do you think the removal of risk outside wilderness over time has contributed to the divide between non-PKers and PKers? So I guess just not having risk in PVM.
I think it has. I think that's like, without a doubt, it has. Because there's not, like, why would you go to a dangerous zone where you could potentially lose your items versus just staying in a safe zone where you can also make more money and you can use the best in slot gear that you've purchased?
Yeah.
Like, it's more fun to do PVM when you got all these expensive items that you can use compared to going to the wilderness where you can only use 3 of them.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know. Just without a doubt, honestly.
Yeah. I was just thinking, just real briefly, I was like, I wonder, what if you could like almost package up yourself? Like, you could almost buy this thing that like kind of gives you not a preset. That sounds RS3 if I say that, but just imagine if you could bring out your best in slot gear to the wilderness, but and then you'd be risking like a set amount. Like it's almost like if you die, you're not going to lose all that shit, but you get to still enjoy the benefits of it, like PVM. Never mind. This whole thing is just not a good idea. But I was just thinking, like, imagine if you could bring it out, but then if you die, you just lose like this special item and a bunch of gold or something like that because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
That would not work. That was a shitty idea. I was just thinking out
Yeah,
loud.
I don't think that.
I
I
was
don't think
literally
that's
thinking out loud right there.
popular.
You know what's funny though? Like on I guess the part of the reason I brought it up is because like in a tournament world once, I went out to Callisto with full max melee, with a mace on task on a tournament world, and it was disgusting. When you're in bandos and everything, and like clawing and stuff, like it's fucking fun. Like
Yeah,
genuinely.
I think people really enjoy tournament worlds where they can like PK and everything, which is also like I don't know. For like myself, for example, like I PK in best in slot gear. It's genuinely very fun when you can just sit there and like help big hits non-stop.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think a lot of PVMers would, if they actually had an interest for PvP or like wanted to try out stuff like that, it's just about getting to the point where you can use that gear.
That's true.
But of course, it comes with like anything that's like dangerous. You obviously have to lose to get better.
Okay. Do you think it's lazy to remove BH due to abuse rather than moderate the game, considering how much worse PVM skilling is abused by bots and gold farmers?
No, because two wrongs don't make a right. So one problem doesn't justify another problem being in the game, and ultimately, I think they could bring back BH, but just have everything be untradeable rather than tradable. Yeah. At the same time, though, I understand why Jagex removed it. Like people really underestimated how much GP the farm, like the gold farmers made. So to say that it's only like a problem. Yeah, it's a problem, but it's not a minor problem. It's a massive problem. It generated more gold than anything else in the game. And to just like kind of ignore that for the sake of like, oh well, I want this content, and there's already other broken content in the game. Why can't we get it? I don't know. It's like a lazy opinion that like hasn't really been thought about properly.
Yeah.
I think they could definitely fix it if they wanted to, sure, but like just keeping BH for the sake of keeping BH because there's other problems or like other gold farms in the game, it's just stupid. That argument really doesn't get the game anywhere.
Mm. Yeah. His final question is there a style of PKing you really enjoy doing that you feel isn't entertaining to watch? And then vice versa. So one that isn't enjoy doing, but is really fun to watch.
Hybriding, for sure.
Hybriding is fun, or it isn't fun?
Yeah, no, it is fun. It's the most fun thing for me to do in a game, but it requires so much concentration that it's just not good stream content at all.
Okay.
I think I don't know. Whenever I go hybriding, I usually go in a decline of viewers. I can hop at rev caves and not find anyone and still have more viewers than what I do hybriding because I'm talking. And with hybriding, it's like it requires so much concentration to the point where the only times I can really like speak is either when both of us are frozen or like I don't know, in between like banking and whatnot.
Yeah. And then is there one that is not fun, but you feel like on stream it's great? I guess for the viewers as well.
Skull tricking and Revenant cave BKing would probably be those. I don't enjoy Revenant Revenant BKing anymore, but a lot of people do, so I still do it sometimes, but I genuinely don't enjoy it. It's become very stale. But I guess sometimes Revenant PK, like Revenant Cave PKing, can be an excuse to just like hop around and talk to my chat.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, the last kind of question I'm seeing here, at least I've missed a few for sure, but James asks, what RuneScape content creators, video makers were influential to you when you first started playing? And then he said he would love to hear you chat about X players, creators, and their video edits. Bonesaw, Ramledenis, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, that's a Swedish, like a Swedish PK video maker, I think. He made a PK video where Bodhi, Tesco K, NHS and I think it was Erase XD collabed all together, which back then was like a massive deal. So, the most influential, I think, most likely, I'd have to say like Sparkmac or like Bodhi. I think Bodhi, Erase XD, and Sparkmac. One of the people that I definitely enjoyed the most was a guy called Poke and Die, who also made videos with Echo. Both of those fairly small. They're kind of like a Bodhi style streamer, not streamer, a YouTuber, sorry. Which they used did PKing content, and they were like very influential to me for like what I wanted to do in the future with content creation and like how they did their commentaries. Because they kind of just did commentaries where they either just fucked about with their mates or just talk their mind. Like they would talk about random things that happened throughout their life as they just have PKing clips going on in the background. So it was kind of like I don't even know what you call those. Like you know, like people that release, you know, when like CS:GO, like surfing with just random topics was like a thing.
Yeah, kind of.
Not like the Leafy era, I guess, but like when people would just talk about random stuff.
Yeah, no, there was
Content like that. I
and then
really
there's stuff
enjoyed
in the
those.
background going on. It's nice.
Yeah, just PK content with them chatting about funny experiences they've had and stuff like that. It was that to me was some of the most enjoyable content.
It's so
Uh,
weird how the most simple content sometimes is just actually the best.
yeah, it truly can be. And I mean, they had series and stuff as well, but
Yeah.
uh,
Is
overall, I
it
think
just
I
a
just enjoyed it.
niche that like makes it so good? Like, am I just different than others? Because what I really love is a content creator I look up to rambling on about random stuff. That's like the content I really love. When it's like a series that's a lot of effort and time put into it, I'm not actually as interested because it almost feels too scripted. I
Yeah,
really love.
I love it when you hear people speak their mind.
Yep.
They can just be rambling about random stuff in the game, or they could be talking about experience that they've had IRL, like just things that have happened to them in real life, and that's really just interesting to hear because you actually get to know them as a person. I don't know if you ever watched a guy called World 65.
Nope.
Uh, Genuinely such a good content creator. He had so many stories of like funny things that's happened to him and whatnot, and he just did a very good job at telling them. And overall, was a very funny guy. So I think content like that it doesn't really flourish all that much anymore, but it's very enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And you know what's like the best part of those rambles is they're almost like I guess like any video can be considered timeless, but like as a Iron Man, I would watch the Lelador Iron Man videos. He was rank 1 Iron Man at a time, and he would make just little rambles of him talking about what he's doing and stuff. And those alone, he's just at the bank standing just doing some random shit, just talking about stuff. Like there's just something so good. It's the background noise, you know. It's like the best background noise you can ever have.
It's like a little bit more planned than a stream, but like without chat input, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like a stream without chat input, but I guess they have a specific topic that they'll talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely a beauty to it. Honestly, I think that type of content almost deserves more attention than what it gets. But Bodhi's done that so many times, and I truly wished he did it more.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay. If there's anything that I know there's a few things I've missed. I feel like we've kind of covered the basics of the things I'm looking at that we missed. I think we've covered it, but let me know. Just you can look through it and see if there's anything you would like to bring up. If there isn't, however, I can just ask my final questions to you, but let me know.
I don't think there is anything else. I think we've covered pretty much everything.
All right. Well, I'll just kind of ask like final things some of the questions I like to ask. When we kind of already covered it, but would you like to give a shout out to, I guess, a few people that have inspired you. It sounds like you've already given out a few shout outs.
Yeah, the thing is with giving them shout outs is like they're already bigger than me. I don't know if they fucking need it, but like Elliot, what's he called? Bodhi as well, honestly. The people in my community, one of the people that I absolutely admire the most is Sparky. He's always been there for me. All of my mods in general have just been very kind to me, and just I don't know. It's like they're just there every single stream, moderating for no other reason than just liking whatever content you put out, and it's like something you can't really put a price on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love Spark Mac. You know what I really miss is those days back in when I was camping Revs and the tribe would come out to Rev Caves.
Oh, well, I said Sparky. I didn't mean Spark Mac, but yeah.
Oh, you're saying
Mac
Sparky. I thought you were saying Spark Mac. I'm like, I thought you just called him. I thought you were calling him Sparky. Who's Sparky? Oh,
it's my mod.
oh my god, I was just thinking Spark Mac was your mod. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, and you introduced it by saying these people don't need a shout out. They're already bigger than me. And so
Okay, I can definitely see how you got that.
Okay. I was kind of confused. I was a little confused, but I didn't want to question it. I was like, okay, like, interesting.
I mean, I can name like so many people, like Nilki, who's done all of my emotes, by like starting soon screen, Marley Entertaining, my manager at Method, James, Finley, all of them have been very good friends to me and just overall supported what I do.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, that was funny. I was talking about the tribe coming out to Pking. Those are some good times. That's like when you like basically had to lurk Spark Mac's stream like while you're killing revs, just to make sure he's not highlighting your world.
Spark Mac went Rev Cave, it was lethal because he would just have like 300 people.
I loved how good he was at tanking. He really understood the power of Phoenix necklaces, and like being able to like tank a bunch of people was really fun to watch. Good shit.
Yeah, it's always nice to see like people that have been around since I was a kid still make it.
Yeah. Did you ever watch RH or RH Nightmare, or what was it? Nightmare RH. That was
Nightmare RH. Yeah, they got to just him with chainsaw doors and computers.
That guy was crazy. And you know what? I've still actually seen his stream occasionally. But
yeah, do you know the reason to like why he died out on YouTube?
I don't know, because honestly, if he had just stuck with all that, he'd be the biggest thing ever, I feel like.
Yeah, so I can't remember who interviewed him, but Nightmare went out and said that he thinks the reason that his channel died out was because he had to go overseas for a year, I think, on a deployment, because he's in the Navy, I think, or just military. I'm not sure exactly what his position is, but he is in the Army, in the US Army, regardless. So he went away for a year and he had like these planned, like pre-made videos that weren't really that good. But obviously, if you have to make content for a year in like the span of a month or something, it's gonna take a hit, of course.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that like the interest for making them when you're sat there making content for over a year it's gonna deteriorate and you're gonna lose the charm.
Yeah.
So
that's really sad in a way, because I thought it was just him kind of just doing something else with his life. He just was burned from the game or something like that, because I didn't really keep up after I was a kid. But I just remember thinking like he had such a huge audience very early on, and if he would have just nurtured that would have been
so big so early.
Yeah, he would have been the biggest thing ever.
Oh Jesus Christ, what the fuck has just landed on my desk?
Is it a bug?
Uh-huh. Did I kill it? Oh! Okay, I killed it. What the fuck was that? Where did that come from?
It came from your delivery, man.
Bro, it looks like a cockroach, but with wings.
Jesus Christ. It's fucking terrifying.
Okay. Sorry.
Nah, you're good.
You scared the shit out of me.
All right, well, I don't have anything else, so pretty much wrap it up. We'll have your Twitch link in the description, your Twitter. Is there any other links that you would like provided in the description?
Nah, it's all right. That should do.
Okay. Well, Westham, absolute pleasure. Super enjoyable conversation talking about wilderness and other shit.
Yeah, yeah. Again, thank you so much for actually having me on. I think it's been fun. Time kind of flew away. It's
Yeah,
been nearly 4 hours.
yeah. 3 hours and 12 minutes right now on the watch. So
Yeah, quite a bad one.
pretty insane. It's crazy how long you can really talk for when just you kind of lose track of time.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first looked at the time, I was like, "Holy shit!" I didn't know it'd been this long.
Yeah. Well, West Ham, we'll end it here. Thank you very much. Who knows? Maybe in like a year or so, when Wilderness gets a few changes, I'll have you back on the cast and we can talk about what has happened in the, in the past or in the upcoming future, I guess. But it'll be in the past at that point.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. I mean, let me know anytime. I'm always down for a conversation.
awesome. All right. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.